Morgan for breaking a lease and damages to her apartment. Laura claims she gave Leora ample notice.
Quiet in the courtroom, all rise. Yes, case number 162 on the calendar in the matter of LaPearl versus Morgan. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Miss LaPearl, you rented an apartment to Miss Morgan. She was your tenant for a little over a year.
Yes.
According to your complaint, she gave you a 30-day notice. She moved out, and you want her to pay for all of your expenses that you incurred in finding a new tenant, and also damages to the apartment that you claimed that she did before she moved out, and rent. Miss Morgan says that she gave you 30 days notice, that she left the apartment in fine condition, and she is counterclaiming because she says you filed charges against her for either burglary or trespass, and they were false charges. You never appeared at the hearing when she was forced to appear. I think she had to come back from Europe in order to appear, and she wants you to pay her expenses. Now, when you first rented to her, did you have her sign a lease?
Yes.
Do you have a copy of that lease?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it. What kind of premises is this, Miss LaPearl?
It's a two-family house.
Okay. Who printed up this lease?
This is a pre-made lease.
Well, somebody typed in these things.
I have a secretary that does that for me.
Okay.
And in the back it says...
Just a second. All right. She signed this lease on...
October 1st.
October 1st, 2003, and the lease was for 12 months.
No, the first time it was 10 months. It was from October till the end of July.
Okay,
of
10 months.
2004, yes.
10 months. And then you typed in, or your secretary typed in,
yes,
this lease will automatically renew for an additional 12 months unless you notify each other 30 days. That's illegal. You can't do that. You can't do that. I know you would like to do that, but you can't do that. At the end of the lease, if you don't choose to renew it, the tenant becomes a month-to-month tenant. Mm-hmm. Do you understand?
Yeah, I hear
Good.
what you're saying.
Perfect. Now, when did she move in?
October 1st of 2003.
And she lived there for how long?
She lived there from October 2003 until March of 2005.
Had she paid her rent on time?
Yes, she did.
Had you ever had occasion to try to have her evicted for any reason?
No.
What happened in March of 2005?
I was in Israel visiting my mom, and when on my return, I found out that Miss Morgan entered my house without permission, without anybody being in there, opened the porch door, proceeded to the kitchen to leave a letter in my house, which my daughter found out. This is my daughter.
What did the letter say?
The letter basically said that she's giving me 30 days notice.
Okay. Step up. Your last name is?
LaPearl.
How old are you?
18.
Were you at home when your mother was in Israel?
I was not. I was also away. I was in Mexico.
Who was home?
Well, the thing that happened was that I was supposed to come home the day before, but due to a snowstorm, I couldn't come home. And my dog needed to be feeded. So I called my neighbor and asked her to unlock the house.
Who's the neighbor?
My friend Sarah.
So your friend Sarah was telephoned on what day?
On February 28th.
Well, who was taking care of your dog while you were in Mexico?
My brother, but he had to work that day, and it was an unplanned.
When did you get home?
I arrived home that same day that I'd asked my neighbor to come and feed my dog.
Okay. Now, what did you find, Miss LaPearl, when you came home? Something on the table?
Yes.
What did you find on the table?
I found a letter addressed to my mother.
Everything else was in place?
It seemed that way, Your Honor.
Now, when you found this letter, did you open it?
Yes.
And what did the letter say?
It was a letter from Miss Morgan saying that she had left 30 days' notice and that she had stopped by and left this letter in our home.
It said she stopped by and left the letter in your home? Is that what the letter said? Give me see the letter.
No, that's not what the letter said.
Then I'll see the letter. No, of course it didn't say she stopped by and left the letter in your home. This letter is dated February 28th, 2005, and it says, Sierra, this is to notify you that I will be returning to you the keys of the house at 22 Bright Street, first floor, on the 31st of March. Thank you. Laura Morgan. I am bringing this letter in person to you just to make sure you get it on time on the 28th of February. And it's signed you. Okay. Now, Miss Morgan, when you got to the house on February 28th, there was no one home?
Your Honor, there was no one home.
Okay. So what did you do?
I didn't leave it on the table. I opened the porch, and there was a dog.
Is it an enclosed porch?
Yes, it is an enclosed porch.
I see.
And there was a dog there. So I very be careful because I didn't want the dog to get into the house. And I just slide my hand and I put the letter right on the side, on the chair. I didn't put a feet in the house.
I don't care whether you did or whether you didn't.
Oh, I just put the
Listen to me. Yes. I don't care whether you did or whether you didn't. So you put the letter inside the house.
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
So now you've got your 30 days notice, Miss LaPearl.
Yes.
You're not entitled to any more than that. She's a month-to-month tenant. I don't care what you put in the lease. It's illegal. So what are you suing her for?
First, I was suing her for 1 month rent.
She gave you 30 days notice.
You know, Your Honor, she was the one that said, well, you know, I like this lease because it's automatically renews, and she liked that.
Good. Fine.
Well,
she gave you 30 days notice. Get over it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You're full of baloney. It was vindictive. You were not violated in any way. Put your hand down. Outrageous. You are an outrageous lady.
And later today,
Where is there anything sharp here, sir?
The rope. I was carrying it and she grabbed it from its legs to
I
grab
see. So
me
she
inside.
was pulling it back.
Oh my God, how ridiculous.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Leora LaPearl claims former tenant Laura Morgan owes for breaking a lease, damaging her apartment, and leaving behind trash. Laura is countersuing for a false police report.
Keep going.
Miss Morgan was smoking in the apartment. The apartment smelled like an ashtray. I have witnesses. My daughter was there to help me clean it. For 1 month, I was trying to get the smell out of the place, and I couldn't. It took us 3 times to shampoo the rugs and clean the walls to get rid of the smell. Beside that, I'm suing for stealing things from the basement. I had whole sets of garden tools. I had dishes in there, trays.
What makes you think that Miss Morgan took those things?
I have little incidents with this woman that make me feel like she's a totally dishonest person, you know.
Oh, stop it.
Okay.
Stop it.
I didn't see
Do you
it.
have any proof that she took anything from your house?
No.
All right.
No, but I have proof to show that she left trash in the basement.
All right, let me see your proof that she left trash in the basement.
When she moved from France, she had boxes and boxes and boxes of things that she brought, and all of it was in the basement. You know, she was doing some kind of artwork. She had some sculptures.
Okay, so you
material
had to either do or get somebody to remove these boxes.
Yes.
All right, so that's what you're talking about, the boxes.
The boxes and the trash. She left there empty bottles, plastic bottles, whatever.
So you had to get somebody,
Yes.
or you did yourself, get the bottles and the boxes out of the basement.
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay,
I
good.
did
And how
bring
much
some.
did that cost you?
$300.
Let me see the bill.
It's also for dumping fee.
When did you move out?
I moved out. It was on the 31st of March.
31st of March. This purported bill, which I question,
Yes.
is dated June 7th.
Yes.
You mean you let the stuff stay there until June?
Yes.
I don't believe you, Miss LaPearl. I don't know what you have a bee in your bonnet about. I want to know when you call. She has a counterclaim. And her counterclaim is that you filed these charges against her, which caused her to have, at least for the moment, a criminal record of trespass. I assume that you filed trespass. You have a police report that you filed? I'd like to see it.
Yes, I did. I think this is the one. We were to appear in court on
I didn't
April-
ask you a question yet. When did you file this complaint? When did you return from...
As soon as I found out about it, and I didn't find it right away because...
Just a second.
Okay.
When did you return from Israel?
I think it was March that I returned, the beginning of March.
When did you have a conversation with your mother about this letter?
When she returned from Israel?
Okay, so she returned shortly thereafter from Israel?
Yes.
And tell me about the conversation that you had with your mother when you gave her the letter.
I had just told her that when I came home that the letter was inside of the house, and I...
Did you tell her where you found it in the house?
Yes, Your Honor.
Where did you tell her you found it in the house?
I found it on the kitchen table.
Now, who had you spoken to about the letter prior to telling your mother?
Nobody, Your Honor.
You spoke to nobody about the letter. Just listen to me very carefully. You spoke to nobody about the letter prior to telling your mother that you found it on the table. Is that what you're telling me?
I believe so, Your Honor.
That's what you're telling me.
Yes.
Now, after you had this conversation with your daughter,
Yes.
did you discuss the letter with anyone?
Yes, I did.
Who?
Miss Morgan's friend, Rosa, the lady that brought her into the house, drove her into the house.
Just a second. Nobody could drive a car into your house.
Into the driveway, obviously.
Did you have a conversation with anyone else?
Not that I remember.
Then you went to the police and filed a criminal complaint.
Yes. A breaking of an entrance. Somebody violating my rights, breaking into my house, yes.
Listen to me very carefully.
Yes.
Maybe it was the neighbor who found the letter and put it on the kitchen table, who was there to feed your dog. Maybe it was your son who found the letter, who was feeding the dog on a regular basis while your daughter was in Mexico, who found the letter on the chair and put it on the kitchen table. You did not speak to either of the two people who had permission and authority to be in your house that day, who could very well have picked up this letter from where she says she left it and put it on the kitchen table. You didn't speak to those people. What you chose to do, despite the fact that you found, Miss LaPearl, nothing untoward in your house, nothing, that your daughter found nothing untoward in your house. The only thing she found was this letter,
yes,
giving you 30 days' notice on February 28th because you were in Israel, your daughter was in Mexico, and she was trying to do the right thing. You went and you had a tenant who lived there for a very long time that you had no trouble with, according to you. You decided to go and file a criminal complaint against her.
I felt totally violated.
Oh,
Somebody
how did you feel violated? Did you feel violated when your daughter said, listen to me, you're full of baloney.
No,
Did
no,
you
no.
feel violated when your daughter told you that she had another stranger come into your house to feed your dog? It's not an answer. I want to tell you something, madam.
Yes.
You're full of baloney. You filed this complaint in the criminal courthouse April 4th. That's the date stamped on the criminal court complaint, which was 1 month later, after you came home. 1 month. And all it says in this criminal complaint was, if I can read it, breaking and entering.
Entering into my house.
I want to tell you something. You're responsible for whatever damages she incurred as a result of your filing this ridiculous complaint. It was vindictive. You were not violated in any way. And it's in all probability somebody who had permission to be in your house picked up the letter and put it on the kitchen table. Put your hand down. Outrageous. You are an outrageous lady. Judgment for the defendant on the counterclaim in the amount of $1,000. Your claim is dismissed. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are
Thank
excused.
you.
You may step out.
Thank you. I'm very thankful to Judge Judy.
I'm happy to get rid of her, so it's fine.
Miss Morgan had actually admitted to actually entering our house.
Her telling me that I broke an entry when I just gave her a month's notice is totally unfair and ridiculous.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Hamuda versus Wilson. Step forward, please.
28-year-old Mohammed Hamuda is suing his former roommate, Susan Wilson, for a security deposit and an assault. Mohammed says Susan scratched his arm with a monkey puppet.
Mr. Hamuda, you rented a room from Miss Wilson and you were a tenant of hers for approximately a year. Is that right?
That's right.
According to your complaint, on the day that you moved out, there was an altercation with Miss Wilson and she caused you to injure yourself with this puppet, I gather. And in addition, she refuses to return your security deposit of $200. So you are suing us for both the injury that you sustained as well as the security deposit. Miss Wilson says there was never an assault. You were a terrible tenant. You left the place in a mess. And since you left the place in a mess, you're not entitled to your security deposit. Why didn't he get his security deposit back?
He took the blinds off. He threw them away. I took them, put them in the closet, waited for him to move out to show him the blinds were...
Show me pictures of the apartment.
I have a videotape, but he took pictures of the blinds.
I want to see a videotape that you have of the apartment to show me why he shouldn't get his security deposit back.
It's back there.
Let's get it. What word didn't we understand? Are you telling me that the videotape that you have demonstrates the condition of the apartment when he left, that it was a mess?
Yes.
How much did you pay to clean it?
About $90.
Show me the bill.
I don't have a bill.
Who cleaned it?
I did.
Miss Wilson, I don't need the videotape. You're irritating me. He's entitled to get his security deposit back. If you had to pay somebody either to clean a carpet or to clean walls or to repaint or something else, that's a different story. Don't tell me that you paid $90 to have it cleaned up and then I asked who cleaned it up and you told me you did.
Well, the blinds were destroyed.
Show me a bill for the blinds.
I don't have a bill.
Then he gets his deposit back. All right, now, tell me about this assault.
I was trying to move out, and I was carrying Mo. And she tried to stop me from getting out. She kept standing in my face, saying, "Give me the key."
Give you the key?
Yeah, for the apartment. But she was kind of a little drunk, so she wasn't.
Look at me, sir. Don't look at your picture. Look at me.
And I was carrying this puppet. On my way out, she stood in my face again. And she said, "Give me the key." And I said, "I already gave you the key." She couldn't believe me, so she grabbed the puppet from its legs, causing me a mark on my arm.
Let me see.
I'd like to see it, too.
Why did you take these pictures? Is it because you anticipated trouble?
No.
So
because she claimed that I left the place as a mess.
He called the police on me because I wasn't going to give him his deposit. So he called the police, and the police said to take pictures, and so that's why I took my video camera out.
I see.
So that was the reason.
And you told him you weren't giving him his deposit back? Why?
Because of the reason of him eating my food, tearing the blinds, you know. It's just a mess.
Bird, I know that this is... I just have to see on what he scratched himself. I want to see where it's sharp there. Could you bring that up to me, please?
He could have scratched himself cleaning the walls in the bedroom.
Where is there anything sharp here, sir?
The rope. I was carrying it this way. And she grabbed it from its legs. To grab me
so
inside.
She was pulling it back. I see. Okay.
I did. Oh, my God. How ridiculous.
I believe you, Mr. Hamouda. I believe you that she caused a scratch on your arm. I believe you that she tried to interfere with your walking out of the apartment, which you shouldn't have done. You are suing her nominally for $300 for that scratch on your arm, and I believe you're entitled to it. And you are also entitled to your security deposit back because she has absolutely no proof that you caused any damage to the apartment. As a matter of fact, the photographs that I've seen show that the apartment was in pretty reasonable condition. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. That's all.
Thank you. Parties are excused. You may step out.
His wife, Charla, strives for child support costs. Jason says he has custody of Charla's daughter from a previous marriage. Charla is countersuing, claiming Jason won't let her see her kids.
Your Honor, this is case number 50 on the calendar in the matter of Strides versus Strides. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Mr. Strides, the defendant is your former wife.
Correct.
How long were you married?
All together, about 6 years.
And you have a child together?
Correct.
Boy or a girl?
Girl.
And you have custody of that child?
Correct.
And Mrs. Strides has a child from a previous relationship. Mm-hmm. How old is that child?
9.
And you also have physical custody of that child?
That's true.
And how long have you had physical custody of both children?
Both children, about 2.5 years, maybe a little bit longer.
Is that when the two of you separated 2.5 years ago?
No, we actually separated in August of '99. And then when we separated, a short amount of time went by, and then she left the area with Felicia and Cameo to Arizona. And then I flew down and got the children and her and drove back in her car. And from that point on, I've had the children.
Did she remain with you?
No, she stayed about 2 months, and then she drove back.
Leaving you with both children?
Correct.
And you've had them ever since?
Yes.
Your lawsuit says that your former wife receives child support for the older child.
Correct.
From the older child's father.
That's right.
And you have not gotten that money.
No.
And the child's been in your custody. So you are suing her for that money.
Correct.
Not child support that she should pay you for your daughter and her daughter.
No.
She doesn't pay you any child support, I assume.
Well, she's starting to now. There's an order in place.
But prior to that,
Yeah.
She hadn't given you any support for your daughter.
No.
And she hadn't given you the support money that she collects for Cameo.
No.
And that's what your lawsuit is for. Not for the support for your daughter for the last 2.5 years, but only for the money that she collects from Cameo's father.
That's right.
Mrs. Stry says that you agreed to let her keep that money because she gave up spousal support. That's your defense. Is that right?
Yeah, yes.
How much were you collecting for the 2 years that Cameo was in Mr. Stry's custody?
Well, it's originated as $239 a month, and then, but if he didn't work a whole month, then, you know, I only got a portion of that. So it was generally about $185 a month.
You want to explain to me, Ms. Stry, what your defense is? This about waiving spousal support? Tell me about it.
Okay. Well, this all started, I needed to get into acquaintance with my biological father after my mother died. And I tried to get Jason to move to Arizona a few times, and he didn't seem too anxious to do that. And I started going through depression and all kinds of feelings of loss and stuff, and I was not myself at all, and I decided that I needed to go be with my family and get to know my biological father. Well, I moved in with my biological father with my 2 children, and I didn't realize that I was walking into a life of hell. I basically moved into a house that was full of drugs. I didn't know this until after I got to Arizona. You know, I mean, I was unaware of it at all. And I got to Arizona, and the house was just,
okay,
you know,
so it was a bad situation.
Very bad. And
that was 1999.
Right, I was very stuck.
Let's fast forward.
I was very stuck because my car broke down and I couldn't work. And so I decided that, you know, I started getting into the drugs, and I decided that the best thing for me to do for my children were to bring them back to their dad.
Good.
Because
so
I knew he was a good father.
That's what you did.
Right, but I had to go back down to Arizona to testify to a hearing down there.
About what?
About a drug situation that went on in the house.
Let's get to your defense to this action.
Okay. The reason I haven't sent him the checks...
The reason you kept the money
is because he was telling me to go ahead and keep them, because he said that he wanted his wife to be supported by some kind of money.
Is that what you said to her?
That's not true. You got to understand, it was a little bit of a precarious situation because I had custody of a daughter that I'm not a biological parent for, and under her situation that she was currently involved with, I was afraid to force the issue because the father might step in, and I had no contact with him. For a long time, he had no idea that I had the kids.
What you're suggesting is that you felt threatened that either the biological father or the defendant would come back to take Cameo if you pressed the issue of the money.
Very much.
Is that right?
I was very, very frightened of that, yes.
Very good. Then what changes that now?
I've spoke with the father, and he knows what's going on.
Then you should have spoken to him before, Mr. Stry. I was very sympathetic for you when I read your papers, and I said he's absolutely entitled to that money. But if what you're telling me is for 2.5 years you decided to forego that, it's not fair now to say, well, I spoke to the father, he's well aware of the situation, he doesn't want custody, and therefore I can go against her for the money. That's really what you're doing.
That's
right?
correct.
Well, you can't do that. That's unfair.
That's unfair?
Yes, it's unfair. If you had put her on notice immediately and said, I want the money that you want, put your hand down. I want the money that you're getting for Cameo, because that's the right thing to do.
I see your point.
You do see my point.
I see your point.
And if you didn't do that because you wanted to keep things quiet and you lulled her into the sense of, well, I'm going to be able to keep this money because he wants to keep things quiet. I mean,
that's not true.
Who are you?
I'm sorry.
Who are you?
My name is Donna.
Who are you to this?
I'm a witness.
Who are you to this case?
I'm a witness to the plaintiff.
Are you his girlfriend?
I guess you can call me that.
I'm not interested in hearing from you. Didn't I make that clear by not acknowledging you?
That's a lie.
Do you understand what I just said?
Yes, I do.
And I want to explain something further to you. These are not your 2 children.
That's correct.
Don't get involved. Do you understand?
They live with me.
I don't care. Don't get involved.
Fine.
That's a big mistake. It's between these 2 people, not you. So you get my point?
I get your
you
point.
You lulled her into a false sense of security, and I don't care how much she's given you this prodding and say you got to get the money back from her. The smart thing to do is Nothing. Now she's sending support. The father is aware of the situation. You want to sue him for support? Fine.
To him?
Yes, of course.
For back support?
No.
Okay.
Prospective.
Okay.
Back support you pay.
All right. That's going on right now.
Fine. Good. Then, as far as the other money is concerned, it's gone. Kiss it to God. It never happened. We understand each other?
Yes.
Good.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
It's not her fault you got involved with the drug
No, it's
culture and
not.
people who commit murder and people who sell drugs and are trying to put your life back in order. An innocent person shouldn't have to suffer because of what a guilty person did.
And later today,
When were you divorced?
It was during the summertime.
I know the hour and the second.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jason Stries claims ex-wife Charla Stries owes for the cost to support her child. Jason says he has custody because Charla has a drug problem.
Now, let's get to your nonsense counterclaim. I'll hear you. 30 seconds.
It is nonsense. I personally, I'm just trying to get back on my feet. And I've been trying to do that since I came back in August. And I had to go down to Arizona for another situation that I was in. Someone killed someone with a knife of mine, and I had to go testify.
Ms. Stries, are your two daughters in a good situation for them?
Well, yes
The
and
answer
no.
is they are.
Yes
The
and
answer
no.
is they are.
Right.
In a good situation for them. Stable? Certainly your younger daughter is going to stay with her father. There isn't any question about that unless some family court judge has not eaten a full breakfast. And you should, as the child's mother, have reasonable contact with this child.
Right.
Cameo's a different story.
Right.
The law is more complicated with regard to Cameo because Cameo is not Mr. Stries' biological child. However, I am sure that a court will look at the facts in this case and could very well determine that there are extenuating circumstances. The fact that you are the child's biological parent is not necessarily dispositive of the issue.
Right.
Which, in all probability, should happen because these two little girls have spent their lives together. And to pull one away would be really cruel. And you don't want to be a cruel
That's
parent.
why I don't have her now. Because
Right.
when I came back, I could have taken her. Because there was no law and order set in that he got custody of her.
Does he now have a legal order of temporary custody?
He does at the moment, yes.
Good.
But that was because I did not want to pull her away from her sisters or her dad.
Well, what I'm telling you is, you think long and hard. You know, an innocent person shouldn't have to suffer because of what a guilty person did. And your daughter Cameo has been with her sister her whole life.
Right.
This is the only family she knows.
Right.
It's not her fault you got involved with the drug
No, it's
culture and
not.
people who commit murder and people who sell drugs and are trying to put your life back in order. May take you another year or so to do that, and that would be half of her life that she spent.
Right.
So
I'm sorry.
you have to think of what the child's best interests involve. And the child's best interest probably involves spending at least her minority with Mr. Stries, with seeing you regularly if you get your life together.
Right.
That's why you're supposed to
I
do
have-
nothing to interfere with that.
I have
Right?
a lot of evidence that I've
I'm
been
not
getting
interested
my
in
life
that.
in order.
I'm not interested in evidence. As long as you started out by saying to me, Mrs. Stries, that your counterclaim for emotional distress was nonsense, I'm willing to accept that because I don't
Okay.
have to deal with nonsense. Mr. Stries, it looks to me as if you've done the right thing, like you've acted responsibly, like you're doing a good job with these two girls, like everything is calm. That's the way you got to keep them, right?
That's right.
You're getting support now from her, just started.
Just started,
You're going to
yep.
get support from Cameo's father,
Correct.
as long as he's still in the picture.
Mm-hmm.
Good. What?
He's making my recovery impossible. He's never letting me see my kids when he's supposed to. He's
Just a
changing the
second.
days.
You have a court order for visitation?
Not with my oldest daughter, because it's just a temporary thing. And I was supposed to be visiting her on Wednesdays and Saturdays until I got through my treatment. I'm through with my treatment now.
Do you now have an order of visitation for both of your girls?
No. Well, see, one thing that happened is the divorce finalization went on, and I never even knew it was happening.
What you have to do, Mrs. Stries, is seek a court order of visitation.
Okay.
Let me tell you what's going to happen when you seek a court order of visitation with both girls. They will assign a law guardian, and a good judge will assign a law guardian to represent the interests of both children. And it may be that especially your older daughter, maybe your younger one too, going to involve a period of time of adjustment, seeing you with a therapist, seeing you under controlled circumstances, getting to know that they can rely on every Wednesday or every Saturday seeing their mother. If their father is a smart man, and I think he is, he has to understand that growing up without any contact with their mother is a very bad thing for them long term. Now, you may get some flack from that from your girlfriend, but I'm telling you that's being short-sighted if that happens, because long-term children should not feel deserted by a parent. They can understand as they get older that their mother may have had a drug problem, and that she's cleaned it up, and that she did the best that she could for them by letting them stay with you, but she still loves them and she's still in their life. That's what's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
That may be taking a hard swallow on your part. You understand?
I understand exactly what you're saying.
Okay, good. I somehow thought you would. You need a set order, not something that you work out together. You need an order of the court that says, this is when you go, this is when you pick them up, this is when you drop them off, this is when you see them, this is a therapist that you're going to see them with, so that you have some understanding. He should not interfere with your recovery, but you have to be proactive. Okay?
Yeah.
Good. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She is in the children's life right now.
I would like my children back with me.
I understand she has problems.
That my kids get what they need.
And I have hopes that she'll work those out.
And they get to be with both of their parents.
And that eventually everything will go a lot more peacefully.
Without all this riffraff in the middle.
She's claiming that I'm making things hard for her.
I mean, he used to be my best friend, you know?
I really do believe that she's made it hard on herself.
He claimed to have been, and now he seems like my enemy almost.
My hope that things will continue to improve.
I want to be in my children's life, you know?
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Berardi versus Berardi, step forward, please.
Fleet manager John Berardi is suing his ex-wife, homemaker Lisa Berardi, for an unpaid loan for their son's legal fees. Lisa claims the money was John's idea.
Mr. Berardi, the defendant is your former wife. According to your complaint, you say that she owes you $950 for legal fees that were incurred by your 14-year-old son. 14-year-old son evidently got a hold of a BB gun, and he shot the BB gun while he was in his mother's custody. Was anybody injured?
No.
Some property damage?
A hole in a window.
Okay. He was arrested, and you claim that his mother borrowed the money from you to pay for a lawyer. You want the money back? Okay. When were you divorced?
When were we divorced? I don't remember the date.
I asked the question.
I don't
you
remember
don't
the date.
She'll remember. When were you divorced?
89.
What month?
It was during the summertime, about June, July.
I know the hour and the second. In any event, sometime during the summer of 1989. So your son was very young at the time because he's 14 years now. Do you share custody of him?
Yes.
Do either of you pay support?
No.
You each take care of him when you have him?
Yes, ma'am.
So to say, yes.
What do you mean that's so to say? I don't understand that.
Well, he resides with me.
And he was visiting with you? Where'd he get the BB gun from?
A friend of mine. We borrowed the BB gun so we can take him up to Pennsylvania by my brother's house.
Okay. Tell me about the loan, sir.
After I got the letters from the court stating that he had to be defended by an attorney, I called around, and the cheapest attorney I could find was $1,000. Since I was not receiving any child support, it was very difficult for me to have to spend that kind of money. I called his mother, and I told her the only way I could do it is if I took the money from a credit card. She told me that she would pay me the full amount for the attorney. She would give me $50 to $100 a month when she could, and every time I asked, she never seemed to have the money for it. Finally, she told me that she would give it to me from her tax return this year, and when that came in, she had to use it for something else. So, again, I didn't receive any money. I just felt like I was being taken advantage of, so I had to file the claim.
Go ahead.
I don't feel that I owe him.
No, the question is, did he call you and tell you about the attorney?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Well, tell me about your version of your recollection of that conversation.
When he called, he told me that he needed an attorney for my son and that the cheapest was $1,000. I did not have $1,000 or $500 to give him. And I said, let me find out and see if I can do it through legal aid. But because my son resides with his father was held responsible for that. So I said, okay, at least I tried. He asked me, if for me to pay him. And at the time, I wound up getting laid off at my job. I was on unemployment. I was backed up with bills. I could not afford to pay it. I did say to him that when I would get my unemployment, I would, give him some money. When my unemployment came in, it wasn't what I was expecting. So I could not afford, because I've been backed up. I'm backed up with bills. Now I'm on disability.
What's the nature of your disability?
I fell and I broke my tailbone and I have 4 herniated and ruptured discs.
You owe him the money, and you're going to pay him the money, and I'm going to tell you why. You're getting a free ride. You haven't paid him child support.
He waived that. I support my child when he's by me.
No. He may not pursue you for child support, but that doesn't mean that you're not getting a freebie, madam. Just because you're the mother and he's the father and he happens to have custody of the child, the law is gender blind. We don't see mother, father, we just see 2 parents. And each parent is responsible for the child's support. And you've been getting away with it for a long time. So, I believe that you said to him, when I get my money, I'll help you out as best I can, and he relied on that. And how much was the lawyer, $950?
The lawyer was $1,000.
Well, you're suing for $950 because she gave you $50.
She gave me $50, right.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $950. Consider yourself lucky.
His former live-in girlfriend, Michelle Gagliano, for an assault, hotel fees, and for filing false charges against him.
All rise. Yeah, it's case number 578 on the calendar in the matter of DeBarry versus Gagliano.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Mr. DeBarry, you and the defendant were in a relationship and you lived together until sometime in May of last year.
Yes, Your Honor.
According to your complaint, you believe that Ms. Gagliano is responsible for several things. First, for an assault that you allege she perpetrated on you on that day. Second, you claim that she filed a false application for a restraining order against you, which caused you to incur some fees. You want her to be responsible, in addition, for a hotel that you had to pay for when she filed these false charges and you were forced to leave the home.
Yes.
The defendant says that you actually did, in fact, assault her. She says that, in addition, she had to, since she was arrested, she had to stay in an apartment for a couple of weeks while you were living in her home. And in addition, when she finally was allowed back into the home, she found that the place was a mess and that you allegedly took some property that didn't belong to you. When did this incident occur?
May 24th. 2000.
And how long have the two of you been living together at that time?
Just over 2 years.
So why don't you start by telling me what happened on the 24th of May?
Well, on May 24th, I had picked her up from the airport because she had been at her family's because her father had passed away. And, we came into the apartment and I went into the bedroom and I got on the computer because I was looking for a rental car. And she right away started getting irate with me and yelling at me.
Why was she yelling at you?
We had conversations to the fact that we weren't getting along, that there was some issues.
Before she went away or when she was...
While she was away, I had brought it to her attention that I felt like I was just a roommate. I'm paying bills and I'm living there, but there's nothing else. So we discussed that when she got back, we would talk. As soon as she got back, she didn't say nothing on the car ride back from the airport. She got into the apartment and she flipped out.
Well, tell me how she flipped out, sir. What
she started throwing stuff, my golf clubs across the room. She wiped off everything off the desk and the dresser.
Well, what was it that precipitated that? Something usually happens before.
Nothing. She was just, I couldn't understand. This is a shock to me because she was never like this. So she continued to get irate and she's like, I want you out of here.
Were you not sympathetic to her?
I was.
Okay.
And I said, you want me out of here? Call the cops. She refused to call the cops. So she got in my face, clenched her fists, and turned red, and she was gritting her teeth, and she's like, pushing towards me like she wanted me to hit her. And I just backed away. I said, you need to get out of here. You need to go sit down and go do something because I don't need to deal with this. She's like, I want you out. I said, here, call 911. I typed 911 in my cell phone, and I went to hand it to her. She wouldn't take it. She finally walked out of the room. I sat down at the desk. I was on the computer chair. And a couple minutes later, she came back in and she lunged at me on the chair and started digging into my face. So I had 911 programmed in the phone, so all I did was hit send. And I got the dispatcher. And I told him, she's attacking me. You need to send somebody here now. And she got up and she was hysterical and she went out in the other room. The dispatcher told me, lock the door, stay away from her, and stay on the phone with him, which I did. Police officers arrived, and that's when they started investigating.
Do you have the police report?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please.
There's also pictures on there, too.
All right. Why don't you tell me your version of the events, please?
My version is that I was with my mom because my dad had passed away, and I was there for a month from April 9th to May 24th. During this time, I received a phone bill, and I noticed he was calling this, making outgoing and receiving ingoing calls from this same number. And I questioned him about it, and he says he had fallen in love with this other person, and I didn't want him to be with me if he was in love with someone else or having relations with other people.
When did he tell you that?
I don't know the exact date.
Well, is it when you were away? Or
it was when I was at my mom's house. Okay. It was at my mom's house, and we had conversations for him to leave because we were both unhappy in the relationship. Because it was pretty much...
So far, does that ring a bell?
I never said that I was in love with this, but that is true that there were some calls, but it was never discussed like that.
Well, how was it discussed?
Like I had told you previously, I was unhappy and I felt like we were roommates, and she agreed that it was like we're roommates.
Oh, so you became involved with somebody else?
No, I didn't, Your Honor.
Well,
it was a friend of mine that she accused me of cheating on her with.
You know, there's all kinds of cheating.
Right.
Sir, there's emotional cheating, there's physical cheating. You were having conversations with another woman, correct?
Yes, a friend.
Okay, go ahead. So you got back from...
I got back from Myrtle Beach, and I was unpacking my suitcase, and I had asked him to leave the apartment twice because I was really upset, and he was cursing at me, calling me bad things. And
no, that didn't start. That doesn't make sense. He picked you up from the airport.
We were talking. He said we didn't talk on the way home. We were talking on the way home.
He picked you up from the airport. He didn't say take a cab home, take a car service home. He picked you up from the airport.
With my car.
I don't care whether he picked you up with your car or not. He picked you up at the airport, correct?
Right.
And there was no scene at the airport.
In the car there was.
I said there was no scene in the airport. And when you got home, he just started to curse you? Is that what you're telling me? That doesn't make sense. Makes sense that you were angry with him because of what you saw on the phone bill, but it doesn't make sense that he would start cursing at you.
Well, because I told him I didn't love him. We had discussed that we wanted to separate, and I had asked him to leave, and he said no, and he became very violent.
Well, tell me what he did.
I went over to the desk to get...
Make sure it's consistent with this police report.
I went over to the desk because I saw my car keys on there, and I didn't want him leaving with my car. I should have just let him leave with my car and reported the car.
Don't tell me what you should have done, just tell me what you did.
So I went over to the desk to just grab my car keys, and he grabbed me by the neck and was holding me by the neck. And then once he had me by the neck, I tried to get him to release me, so I scratched him on the face.
Police officers said, I observed Michelle's neck and did not see any marks or any form of injury. At the headquarters, Michelle stated that Joseph slammed the door in her face and injured her back when he jumped on her. Michelle made no claim of these actions when Sergeant and I were at her residence, and there were no injuries or marks consistent with her statement. He advised that while she was in the holding cell, Michelle did not confide any information that she was in fear of Joseph. Michelle was charged with simple...
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Joseph DeBari says his ex-girlfriend Michelle Gagliano owes for an assault, hotel fees, and for filing false charges. Michelle is countersuing for an assault, hotel fees, and damaged property.
Okay. You filed for a protective order on that date.
I was advised by...
And granted a protective order. Okay. Then you went back to the apartment.
Yes.
How long did you stay in the apartment?
It was 3 days.
When did you find out that the lease was in her name?
When I was removed from the apartment, and I went to the office to ask them for a copy of the lease. Because all along, I was under the assumption, because we filled out papers together when we got the apartment, I was supposed to be on the lease.
Did you ever sign a lease?
I signed a document stating that I was going to be a registered occupant.
Were you a registered occupant on the lease?
As far as I was concerned, yes.
Can I see the lease, please?
He wasn't, and the reason for that was because of his criminal background. And that's why I had to move from my original apartment where I lived, because they wouldn't let him live there because of his criminal background for fraud and embezzlement or whatever.
That's your choice. If it's true, and I don't know if it's true or not, that was your choice, right?
To live with him?
Yeah.
I know, but
that was your choice.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you didn't find out anything new about his criminal background after you moved from one apartment to another. You chose to live with him, right?
Yeah.
So you were there 3 days. And then what happened, sir?
I got a knock on the door, 2 police officers telling me I had to leave. They came in and they said, if you don't leave, we're going to arrest you. And this was at 5 o'clock. So I was like, this is wrong. I'm supposed to be here. You know, the court said I should be here. Well, you have to deal with them. It's after hours. You have to leave. So I left. I had a friend of mine pick me up and take me to a hotel. So I had contacted the courts and also the district attorney. And he stated to me, why are you out of the apartment? You have every right to be there.
Don't tell me what he stated to you, sir. That's hearsay.
To go back. So I went back. after 4 days.
Okay, and?
And then our court proceedings continued. It was a 2-week adjournment. And after that, I decided to get my stuff.
And leave.
And leave. And just bring the keys to court.
Well, that's a very good idea.
I didn't want no trouble.
That's a very good idea. I believe his version of the events, and I do not believe yours.
Sorry?
I believe that you assaulted him, that there was a terrible altercation, and that you filed a restraining order subsequently. Unless you have medical records. You have medical records?
I went to the emergency room.
Just a second. I want to see the medical records. I want to see what the physical manifestation was of this alleged assault.
And there's pictures, too.
I'm not looking at any pictures. The police officer memorialized exactly what they saw when they came to the premises. So you went to the emergency room the next day?
Yes.
Not that day. You went the next day. And then you went 3 days later.
Because I tried
Don't tell me what they said. I'm just asking you for objective data. You went the next day to the emergency room. And then you went 3 days after that. I'm just reading the records.
It was a holiday weekend.
Don't tell me what it was.
And I tried to do it that day, but they told me I couldn't.
Don't tell me what they told you, madam. That's hearsay. You can always go to the emergency room.
I mean, for me to... I tried to file a...
You can always go to the emergency room.
No, I know that. I'm not...
I just made a simple statement. The simple statement was you went to the emergency room the next day.
Yes.
Who took the photographs that you want to show me?
I did. I took them in the hotel room because I had to stay at a hotel for 11 days, and I took them before I went to the emergency room.
On what date?
On the 25th of May.
I want to look at them. It's nonsense. Okay. You were asked to leave because of what?
That she filed a complaint against me.
When did you file a complaint against him?
It was when the courts reopened on Tuesday or Wednesday.
I'd like to see the complaint. You give so many different versions of this event to the police, to the doctors in the hospital, in your application for a protective order, and to me. In one narrative of the event, you say he slammed a door in your face and pushed you down. You told me he grabbed you by the throat, and that's what caused you to scratch him. Here you say that you went to grab a set of keys off the desk, he grabbed you by the neck and threw you down, and was holding you down by the neck.
He was.
Well, that's not what you told the doctors in the hospital.
I told them the same thing.
Do you want me to read what you told them?
I read it, and she wrote it.
She wrote it down differently.
She did.
Yeah. I believe that she filed this in retaliation, so you're filing the protective order. What expenses did you have with regard to defending the protective order?
I had $300 in a hotel for 4 days.
Let me see the bill.
This is my bank statement. There's 2 days on there, and 2 days I paid cash. I understand.
How much were the 2 days that are down there?
$74 a day.
I'm dismissing the part of your claim that seeks compensation for an assault. I do not believe you were assaulted. I believe he was. I believe you lost your temper, and that's what happened. I believe that you filed a restraining order against him in retaliation for his filing one so that you could get back into your apartment. That's what you did, and it didn't work. So I'm not awarding you anything on your counterclaim for the 2 weeks that you had to stay in a hotel room. You had to stay in a hotel room because you assaulted him and he had a protective order. Now we're going to talk about your property. What do you claim that he took that belonged to you when he left?
He took a $200 blender. He took a digital photo frame. He took a business card case that I had. It all added up to...
Don't tell me what it added up to. I want to hear what he took.
He took
Keep going.
a wheeled laptop bag, a big Yankee clock that was on the wall. And that's it.
Did you take any of those items that belonged to
No, Your
her?
Honor. I took what was mine, just my clothes.
Did you ever file a police report with regard to items that he took?
No.
Why not?
Because when we went to court, he told my lawyer to tell me
No, don't tell me what he told your lawyer. After you got home, you're not a stranger now to the system. So now you can go back and file a police report that he stole items that belong to you.
Okay.
Did you ever do that?
No, I didn't think I had to do that.
Your counterclaim's dismissed.
Okay.
I'm awarding you, sir, $648, which is $148 for your hotel room and $500 for your scratches. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He gets away with lies.
I didn't realize she was full of lies. I just knew that we didn't have a relationship.
He's just a shady person.
It was just getting worse, and I just wasn't happy.
He's just shady, manipulative, and he lies.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Flint versus White. Step forward.
26-year-old Melissa Flint is suing her ex-boyfriend, 26-year-old Brian White, for the unpaid balance on a furniture set and a television.
Miss Flint, you and Mr. White had a brief relationship, and according to your complaint, he owes you money for furniture and a television set that you put on your credit card.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. White says he doesn't owe you anything, although he is sitting on the furniture and watching the television.
Yes, ma'am.
How long did the two of you date?
We dated approximately 2 months.
From when to when?
We started dating the middle of December to about the middle of February.
And when did he move into this apartment that needed furniture?
He was moving the weekend of the 19th of January of 2008.
So far correct, Mr. White?
I thought we dated a lot longer than that.
It just seemed longer, Mr. White.
Possibly, but no. I do recall at least being with her through March and maybe some of April.
Fine. Where were you living, Miss Flint?
I was living in an apartment of my own in Kansas City.
How long had you been living there?
I moved in July of 2007.
And Mr. White, where had you been living previous to this apartment?
I lived with my father.
What kind of work were you doing?
I was a sales rep for a company called Service Manager.
Miss Flint had her own apartment, you had your apartment. Why would she buy you furniture?
It's a good question.
No. I always ask good questions, Mr. White.
Yes, ma'am.
That's why I'm here.
That's
I expect from you a truthful answer.
I will give you a truthful answer.
Then get to it.
Okay. She was with me at the time that I was moving out of my father's house. My roommate and I didn't have a bedroom or a TV, a nice TV for downstairs.
So you moving in with a roommate?
I moved in with a roommate, yes. I did.
Go ahead.
Anyways, as we got down to it, we were beginning to move in. I still did not have a TV or a bedroom set. She was willing to.
No, not she was willing to. I want you to tell me how it came about.
Well, I asked her if
What did you ask her?
If she would help me purchase a bedroom and a TV.
And what did she say?
She said yes.
And what did you say?
I said I would help make payments.
Then why are we here?
Because at the time we were together.
No, look up, don't look down. Then why are we here?
Because at the time when we were together, she said she would help make payments with me. At the time that we broke up, I found out that she was with her ex-boyfriend.
Who cares?
I stopped making payments.
On what theory?
I looked at it as a gift.
He has really no defense to this. The fact that he didn't like the reason for your breakup is not a reason not to pay the bill.
We were together when she helped me purchase these. We went into it together.
No, you didn't go into it together, sir.
Yes,
if you
did.
lived together in an apartment with her, I would hear you. She had her own apartment. You moved in with a roommate. Listen to me. You moved in with a roommate. According to your testimony, not more than 3 minutes ago, you said you had an understanding. She said, can you help me buy the furniture? She said yes. And what was your understanding? She bought the furniture and I would make the payments. That's what you just said.
I said I would help with the payments, ma'am.
When was the last time you helped with the payments?
The last time I helped is after we broke up. The month that we broke up, I made
Listen,
my last
you look
payment.
foolish enough. Don't say anything else. All right? You look like enough of a fool. Say nothing else. You don't want your father to see this. $2,158. Judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you. That's all.
25-year-old homemaker Shauna Knapp for choking her during an argument at a gas station. Shauna is countersuing, claiming Eileen started the fight.
Yeah, this is case number 56 on the calendar in the matter of Martinez versus Knapp. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Well, on the 3rd of January of this year, one of you two ladies had a really bad day. I don't understand it when women fight with each other over who's first at a gas pump, but I guess I'm going to find out. So, Miss Martinez, this happened on January 3rd, according to your complaint. I would like you to tell me where it happened, what time it happened, who pulled up to the gas pump first, and how it was that Miss Knapp assaulted you, because Miss Knapp said that you were the one who assaulted her, and she's counterclaiming. Is that right, madam?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
I was at the gas station waiting for the pump. Somebody was ahead of me, and so I waited until the person finished, and I started pulling forward when Mrs. Knapp just came rushing in, parked her van counterwise, and she got out of the car. I got out of my car to let her know that I was waiting for the pump first. And she said, well, I don't give an F. And she started screaming.
Who was in the car with you?
My daughter.
You were?
Yes.
So what happened next?
I got back in my car. I thought she was going to leave. And I said, well, okay. Then I'll go ahead and use the pump.
So she moved her car.
Yeah.
And where did
I
she
saw
move
her
it to?
leaving.
Oh, so she moved out of the gas station?
Yes. No.
Get to you in a minute. All right. Go ahead. Come on.
She, I started pumping the gas, and she came around to the other side.
To the other side of the pump?
To the other side of the pump. Now we're facing each other, and she told me, "What the F are you looking at?" And I said, "Well, ma'am, I told you very politely that I was waiting for the pump first." And here comes her mother screaming at me, saying, "Well, no, you didn't, because I heard your mouth all the way inside the car."
She was in the car with her mother?
Yeah.
All right. Would you move up to the assault? How do you allege she assaulted you?
The two ladies, they're screaming at me now. And Miss Knapp, she says something to me, and that's when she punched me. And I went against my car, and when I realized what was going on, I had the two ladies on top of me.
She and her mother?
She and her mother. She had me by the neck.
Never touched her.
She had me by the neck.
Go ahead.
And two men came to take the two ladies off from me. They pulled the...
Did you have any injuries?
Yes. She shifted the bones on my neck.
You have any reports from a doctor?
Yes.
Can I see everything that you have, please? I see this photograph that shows a bruise on your back.
On my back.
Was that as a result of being pushed on the car?
Yes.
Okay. So you went to a chiropractic clinic on the 11th, and your complaint was neck pain radiating into your arm as a result of an assault. On the 4th, you went to the hospital, and the doctor there notes that you had a bruise or crushing injury of the deep tissue in the back. Okay, Ms. Knapp, now I'd like you to tell me your version of what happened, please.
When I pulled up to the gas station, there was two cars on the side that her car was on. I didn't know that there was anybody in the white car, which was the car that they were in. So when the car that was in the middle pulled away, I went to pull up, and she just zipped right up. And if I hadn't hit my brakes, she would have hit the front end of my van.
Well, then what you're saying, Ms. Knapp, is you didn't see her because she was short? Ms. Knapp?
More or less, yes. Because it didn't look like there was, from the angle that my van was sitting at, it didn't look like there was anybody in the car.
Then you were wrong.
I was wrong, yes.
Fine.
I was wrong.
So what happened at that point?
I got out to make sure that, you know, when I hit my brakes, I got out just to make sure that she didn't bump my car, I didn't bump her or whatever. And
well, you would have heard that if somebody bumped a car.
Yeah, you're right.
So you got out of your car.
It was a reaction more than anything.
Listen to me carefully. So you got out of your car.
Yes. I got out and I went around, and she got out and started saying that I was in her way and she was there first, and I was just like, okay, whatever. You know, she was mouthing off, and I just...
No, mouthing off.
I
What
blew
was
it
she
off.
saying? Shh. Pay careful attention. You got out of your car.
Yes.
For no reason. And she said to you, I was here first.
And she was asking me, how am I supposed to pump my gas if you're in the way?
Right.
So...
And did you answer her?
I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't see you sitting there.
Oh, good. So you said, listen to me. So you said to her, I'm sorry, I didn't see you sitting there. And what did you do next?
I turned around, I got back in the van, and I moved my van because it just wasn't worth arguing over.
Perfect. So what happened next?
I drove around because the two cars that were on the other side of the pumps had left. So I just pulled around to go on that side and pump my gas.
Great. And what happened next?
I got out and I started pumping my gas, and she's just standing there staring at me. And I was just like, what? What are you looking at? And she just kept staring at me, and finally I was just like, what? What are you staring at me for? And she started yelling at me.
What did she say when she started yelling at you?
She's like, you got in the way.
No, listen to me. Listen to me. Shh. Miss Knapp, you did it is not an answer. What was she saying to you?
She's like, you were in the way. Why didn't you just move? You knew I was there first. No, I was like, no, I didn't. I was like, I didn't know anybody was in the car. I said, as far as I knew, somebody was in the...
Miss Knapp, that didn't happen. This last portion of what you just told me never happened. You just made that up. This lady didn't continue, as she was pumping her gas, to complain to you about, I can't pump my gas, your car was in the way. That doesn't happen because that doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. It's not true. So forget that part of it, because that's not true.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You know what your problem is? I'm going to tell you what your problem is. You pled guilty.
I didn't plead guilty. I pled no contest.
Same difference.
And later today,
How did he obtain temporary custody?
I went to Fairview Riverside Chemical Dependency for alcohol.
Did he also have a drinking problem?
No.
You were aware of her drinking problem, sir?
I was.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Eileen Martinez claims Shauna Knapp choked her during an argument over a gas pump.
Okay, now you tell me your version of how she assaulted you.
I kept telling her just to drop it,
Just
leave
to
it
drop
alone,
it.
because
So you're
she
telling
was,
her to drop it.
She was pumping her gas, I was pumping mine, and as far as I was concerned, it was over with.
Good.
And she kept yelling at me, and why don't you just shut up then? I'm like, well, shut up and leave me alone, and I will shut up. And she kept yelling, and finally I was just like, look, I'm pregnant, I've got a lot of stuff to do, I don't need this right now, just leave me alone. I must have told her 10, 20 times just to leave me alone.
So what happened next?
And that's when she came flying across the gas pump at me. If I hadn't have pushed her, she would have slammed right into me.
So she came, just a second, she came flying across. She came flying.
She came at me.
She came at you, and you did what?
When she was coming at me, I pushed her away from me, because if I hadn't, she would have ran right into me.
Right. And then what happened next?
She came back at me again, except this time when I went to push her away from me, she tangled her hand up in the neckline of my shirt, which she tore my shirt up. The neckline of my shirt is destroyed. This was a brand new shirt.
Terrible.
I was trying to push her away from me, but I couldn't.
So what did you do?
I backed her up against her car, and I was just holding her there. She's claiming I punched her in the face, but I never swung at her. Because the jewelry I have on is the jewelry I always wear. If I had hit her with that ring on, she would have been cut or bruised or something.
I'm still listening to how she assaulted you.
She came flying across the gas pump at me.
She still hadn't touched you, madam. You were the one who pushed her.
She was swinging at me as she was coming across.
Madam, you're making it up as you're going along. Now, Miss Knapp, you know what your problem is? I'm going to tell you what your problem is. You pled guilty.
I didn't have a choice.
Listen to me. You pled guilty.
I know I did.
You always have a choice. You were arrested for assault.
I was not arrested.
You were given a summons for assault. You appeared before a judge. You gave me a whole big story that your husband was scheduled to go to Iraq, and you were going to have a baby, and you were going to move, and a whole song and dance. So you had no choice but to go in and plead guilty. Is that what you're going to tell me?
Yes, ma'am, because it's the truth.
Okay. So let me tell you about your counterclaim. Your counterclaim is out the window, because when one pleads guilty to assault, which is what you did, you can't then turn around and sue the complainant and say, you assaulted me. Because the court found beyond a reasonable doubt, based upon your plea, that you assaulted her.
You know, she claims that I hurt her so bad. Why did she go to the magistrate's office and press charges the same night that this happened instead of going to the hospital, which is what I did. I went to straight to the hospital after this happened.
Did you have a report from the hospital showing any bruises or contusions on your body?
I didn't have any bruises because
you bruised her. You managed to get her away from you.
I didn't touch her.
You did. You just told me you touched her.
Yeah, I backed her up against the car, but that's all I did.
Right.
She's the one that hauled off and kicked me after the scuffle was even over.
I don't believe you.
Well, you weren't there.
It doesn't make sense that this woman who weighs maybe 100 pounds started up with you, and you've had your baby already, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right?
I had to be induced because of her.
Listen to me carefully. So at that time when you had your baby, you're a pretty big woman now, you were another 40 pounds heavier? Yeah. Right, every bit of it. So it doesn't make sense to me that this woman who weighs 100 pounds is going to start up with somebody who weighs 200 pounds.
Weight doesn't count for intelligence. So
you're absolutely right.
Because I tried to back away from it, and she wouldn't leave it alone.
You're absolutely right. What happened was you lost your temper. You pulled in front of her car. Your mind was someplace else because there wasn't only one person sitting in her car. There were two people sitting in her car. And you didn't see her. And she got out of her car. She said, what are you doing? And she zipped right up. That really annoyed you. You may have been having a bad day. Your husband is getting ready to go.
No,
you're 9 months pregnant. You may have had it up to here, and you overreacted, but you didn't behave appropriately. I don't even have to make that judgment here, although I'm trying to get it through to you. Quiet. You pled guilty. That means beyond a reasonable doubt you are guilty of assaulting her.
I didn't plead guilty. I pled no contest.
Same difference.
Well, I didn't know that at the time.
Same difference. Well, if you didn't know it at the time, somebody didn't give you good advice. I'm here to give you good advice. Judgment for the plaintiff, and the amount requested, $4,000, and your counterclaim is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She lied to the police, she lied to the judge, and she got away with it. That's all it was.
I think she and her mom, they had a bad day and they took it out on me.
I kept telling her to back off and just leave it alone because it was over with. She didn't want to do it.
She was using foul language.
Oh, it probably could have been handled a different way, but, you know, I'm not the one that started it.
I hope she learned her lesson.
Yeah, she's $4,000 richer, but I don't care.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Lightheart versus Prentice. Step forward, please.
Roofing salesman Mark Lightheart is suing his ex-girlfriend, apartment manager Rhonda Prentice, for a loan to regain custody of her youngest daughter. Mark says Rhonda lost custody when she went into rehab.
Mr. Lightheart, you and the defendant, according to what I read, were involved in a relationship. You loaned her a substantial amount of money in order for her to retain the services of an attorney that she needed for a custody case. Custody case involving
My 6-year-old daughter.
And you are no longer together. You claim this was clearly a loan. She was supposed to pay you back. The defendant says that there was no way this was a loan. This was a gift because you knew how important it was for you to have custody of your daughter. Is that right?
Right.
And the child was with your former husband? Or were you not married to the father of that child?
Right. He's had temporary custody since last April. So I'm.
How did he obtain temporary custody?
I went to Fairview Riverside Chemical Dependency for alcohol.
And how long were you in rehab?
3 weeks.
Okay. Tell me how it came about that you asked him to give you this money.
Shortly after I got out of the hospital last year, April 4th, that's when I had found out that my ex-husband took temporary custody. Okay. So the minute I walked out of treatment, I was running for an attorney.
And you found one?
Correct.
And then what did you do?
That's when I talked to him and had asked him if he'd be willing to help, and he said he'd do basically, you know, anything. It was my daughter, and we're in a relationship.
And there was never any discussion about repayment? He said, I'll do anything necessary to help you?
Basically, yeah.
Well, not basically.
Yes.
Is that what he said to you? I'll do anything
yes, he
to
did
help
say
you?
It. Right.
Okay, and how long had you been involved in a relationship with him, Miss Prentice?
The fall before, so August or September.
And you had lived together?
I had an apartment, and then he was going to move in. And he did, but then he moved out.
How long did you live together?
A couple weeks, I think he only stayed there.
And that was after he gave you the money?
Correct.
Okay, but you had dated and were in a relationship for a substantial period of time before you went into rehab?
Yes.
Did he also have a drinking problem?
No.
You were aware of her drinking problem, sir?
I was.
And you were together for how many months prior to her going into rehab?
Probably about 9 months.
Did she call you on the telephone, or were you together when she discussed this money with you?
Both. She had asked me and begged me and for about a week and said that she would pay me back, and I had finally said, you know, yeah, I would borrow her the money.
When she got out of rehab, where was she working?
During the rehab, I believe she had got terminated from her job.
So she wasn't working?
Right.
So what did you expect her to pay you back immediately with?
If it was not to go to a jury trial, the money that I borrowed her was not going to be used for attorney fees, so she was going to pay me back the
So she was just going to give it back to you?
Correct.
And if it did go to a jury trial, where did you expect her to get the money from to pay you back?
She was expecting to get her child back, and she would have gotten child support in the amount of $1,300. And that $1,300 she was going to pay me per month.
And what was she going to support her child on?
That I don't know.
Okay. So how much money did you give her?
I borrowed her $7,000.
First of all, the word is loaned.
Loaned.
You loaned her, according to you, and she borrowed.
Yep.
She says it was a gift. I don't see how you could loan her money if she had no way of repaying you. Tell me about that, sir.
It was under my understanding that I was going to get paid back the loan amount within, you know, whatever, 4 months total time, if not immediately.
I don't buy it. Sir, I could imagine that if you're in a relationship with somebody and she says, I'm desperate and I need money, and you know she has absolutely no way of paying you back, the likelihood of the case going to trial is great, then she certainly wouldn't have money to pay you back because the only money she would get would be child support, and she wasn't working. So there was really no way that you could even expect to be paid back. You probably expected to have a long-term relationship with her. Is that a fair statement?
At that time, no, because we weren't really going out. We were still talking, but we weren't in a relationship at the time I borrowed her the money.
You were in a relationship, sir, because you moved into her home. I don't care if it was for 2 weeks. What do you call that? Your house was being painted? Anything else you want to tell me?
Well, during our relationship, she had gotten a settlement from her ex-husband, and she had bought a car cash with this money. When I loaned her the money, she agreed that if she was not able to pay me back the money, she would take out a loan against the car to at least help me recoup some of the cost.
Is that right?
We had talked about...
Just a minute. Did you agree to take out a loan against your car?
Well, months later, after when he was telling me he was down and out...
What kind of car is it?
Ford Taurus, 98.
It's an older car. How much did you expect for her to get against that car?
We agreed that she would take out a loan against the car.
Go ahead.
I'd called my banker. He's a personal friend. And the loan value on the car was $3,500.
So that the only money that you really anticipated getting back was money that you could get as a result of taking a loan out against her car.
Had I known I wasn't getting any money back, I would have never have loaned her any money.
That's too bad. I'm smarter than you are. You're not going to get over on me. You understand?
Correct.
Good. I will prepare an order that she is directed to take out the loan against her car through your friend. Do you understand the order? Good. That's all. Step out.
26-year-old Chalise Roberts for rent and the return of his clothes. Chalise says Robert is angry about her new relationship.
Yeah, this is case number 208 on the calendar in the matter of Skelsey versus Roberts. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated and have a seat.
Thank you, Bird.
You're welcome, Judge.
Mr. Skelsey, you and Miss Roberts, according to the complaint that I've read, dated for a period of time. You claimed that you made her a loan of $250 at some point for rent. In addition, after you were no longer together, you never lived together, but you probably stayed over occasionally at her house because you claim you have some clothes at her house that she refuses to give you.
A few nights, yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Roberts says that the $250 that you gave her for her rent was a gift and that everything in the house that was yours you took. When did you date Ms. Roberts? From when to when?
We met each other in January of this year. We met off a chat line kind of thing. We just started dating right off the bat.
You both live in the same community?
Yes, in the same area, yeah.
And when was this loan that you gave to her?
The loan was in May. She was having financial difficulties.
Tell me about the conversation that you had with her when you discovered she was in financial distress.
Actually, she asked me. She said,
No.
She did. She asked me. She goes, I'll do anything for you. Can you loan me some money? I'm having financial difficulties. I said, can you ask, one of the fathers of your children
He
can,
offered to
do
give
this?
Listen to me, Miss Roberts. Don't speak again until it's your turn.
And she said that she didn't want to do it because she was scared of like a custody thing. I said, okay, I understand. I have the extra money. I'm going to need the money back soon, but I have the money right now available to you. I said, so here's the money. I wrote it out to her landlord.
You have a copy of the check?
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to see it.
Yeah.
Bird?
Chewing gum?
Yes.
Ah, you shouldn't do that.
Okay, May 23rd. Was she late in her rent?
She wasn't working because she was sick.
No,
so was she late in her rent?
No, I'm asking you. This is dated May 23rd. Was this for May's
Yes.
rent?
Yes.
So you were almost a month late in your
Yes.
rent. Okay, so that's the loan. She never paid you back.
No, ma'am.
When did you stop dating Miss Roberts?
Oh, we stopped dating in like the end of February. We became friends with like benefits kind of thing. And, I'm not one to move fast with a relationship. And her feelings moved fast with me.
So you stopped dating in February,
Yeah.
but remained friends.
Oh, yeah, close friends. Very close.
And shortly after the loan, you stopped speaking?
Almost automatically right after the loan. She said she was busy with work and everything else, but all of a sudden a day-to-day, call or hanging out or whatever becomes, I didn't hear from her for like a week.
Okay. And what clothes do you have at her house, Mr.
Nike
Stark?
sweatshirt, a Champion sweatshirt, and a Nike pair of shorts.
Okay. You're not going to bother me with those things, are you? You know how many years I went to school? Do you know how many years? A lot of years. You don't
More
think
than
I'm
me.
going to be bothered by a Nike sweatshirt or a Nike sneaker or whatever it is that you're just talking about?
I value my clothes.
Yeah, good. Shouldn't have left them at her house.
I thought I could trust her.
Listen to me. This is not a give and take.
All right.
Do
Sorry.
you understand?
Mm-hmm.
We're not on an equal footing.
Okay.
I will discuss this alleged loan.
I also have a proof on tape recorder.
That?
She admits to borrowing the money. I got it off my answering machine.
I'm going to hear it.
Right now?
Now's the time.
2 p.m. You are out of your mind if you think you're going to be taking me to court and thinking you're going to make $100 more than what you let me borrow for clothes. Come on now, Rob. It's ridiculous. There's clothes that you gave me to see what the you get out of me. All right? You want to do it this nasty way? I'm going to be a nasty and do it evil too.
Thank you. There is a way to communicate, Miss Roberts, that doesn't involve profanity. You do understand that?
Yes.
Now, how old are you, madam?
26.
And how many children do you have?
I have 4.
And how many fathers do your 4 children
2.
have? 2 for the youngest, 2 for the oldest?
Yep.
No, she told me. Sorry.
How old are your children?
9, 8, 6, and 5.
Okay. Why did you run short of money?
Because I was out of work. I was sick.
What was the matter with you?
I had strep and mono.
For how long?
For 2 weeks.
So what did you say to the plaintiff?
We were friends. I cried to him that I was late in rent. He offered to give me the money. At first, I said I didn't want to. And then, like a week later, I mentioned it again, how I was stressed out, and
No,
he
you didn't
offered
mention it again. That's not a mention. First, you told him, you cried, offered you the money, you said no. Okay? Then it's over. You say no.
Right.
But then, a week later, what did you say to him?
Then I was crying again, stressed out that I was behind, and then he offered again. And then I said yes.
Shh, shh, shh. Remember what I said to her?
I did. Sorry.
So he helped you out with the rent?
Yes.
And then you went back to work?
Yes.
So why don't you pay him back?
Because then I got threatened with court.
Can I explain?
Well, just a second.
And it wasn't a loan to begin with.
Just a second. You know you have to pay rent. Miss Roberts, listen to me. Rent isn't something that comes up and bites you on the behind like a surprise. You know the first of every month you have to pay rent, right?
Yes.
This isn't an unexpected medical bill, an unexpected bill because your generator broke in your car, an unexpected bill because the brakes went dead. This is a set bill, you know. $250 for rent.
Your Honor, can I explain something?
Yes.
She said she was going to pay me on a certain day. I didn't get a phone call. I tried calling her 1,000,000 times in one day. I went to her house, not trying to harass, but, you know, make good on the deal. We're friends. Why are you going to avoid me? And then she tells me that she's stiffing her landlord because she wants to get out of her lease, so what makes her think she ain't going to stiff me?
Just a second. What do you mean she was stiffing her landlord?
She doesn't even live at her current address.
Yes, I do.
Well, you told me you were going to stiff your landlord, and your
How
phone
do you,
got shut
listen
off.
to me, did she explain that to you, sir? How she was going to stiff her landlord just by not paying him rent?
Said that she wanted to get out of the lease, and the only way she could get out of it is by not paying her rent.
So then
I'm
why did
still
you
at
give
my
her
address.
Then why did you give her $250?
Because she didn't have the money for rent, and her landlord said she'd get thrown out on the street, and I did it for the kids. I didn't do it for her.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He asked me how come I seemed so distant, and I told him because I was seeing someone else, and he got mad.
Oh, that's a lie. Oh, you were dirty.
And later today,
You're going to tell me the truth today, even if it was a little different from what you told your mother. Got it?
Yes.
Because otherwise, bad things are going to happen.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Robert Skelsey says ex-girlfriend Chalise Roberts owes for rent and the return of his clothes. Chalise says the money and clothes were both gifts.
All right, Miss Roberts, was he annoying you after you stopped taking his phone calls?
He wasn't annoying me. We were still really good friends. And we went for a walk one time. I do long walks to exercise. He came with me, and he asked me how come I haven't talked to him really, how come I seem so distant. And I told him because I was kind of seeing someone else, and he got mad.
Oh, that's a lie.
Shh. Just
I knew you were, though.
Just
Oh, you were dirty.
listen to me. If you open your mouth again, I'm going to say goodbye. Do you
Okay.
understand?
Yeah. Wow.
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am. You got to understand, please. I'm sorry.
Miss Roberts, I want you to pay very careful attention to me. My sense is that you've made a certain amount of mistakes in your life. I think based on your history that that's a fair statement. You have 4 children, only 2 of them live with you. You got yourself in a financial pickle to the extent that you couldn't pay rent at your age with 4 children. That suggests to me that you've made certain tactical errors in your life.
No, I don't think so.
Well, from a more mature perspective, I'm telling you that if you have a 9-year-old child and you're 26 years old, then you've made certain mistakes in your life. You have to wait until you grow up. You have to wait until you grow up to have children. Otherwise, you have 2 children who don't live with you. Now, what you don't want to do is make another mistake. Uncross your arms.
I'm sorry.
He can be a problem. I want you to take that from somebody who has been around people for a very long time in this circumstance, and I'm telling you that if pushed, he can be a problem. So what you have to do is you have to say, do I want another problem in my life? Do I want this man angry with me, lives close by, I have a new relationship? Do I want him to have any connection to me that I can avoid? If not, and the only thing that's holding us together is a $250 rent check and a Champion sweatshirt, I can either have peace or I can have grief. And if you're a mature 26-year-old, you say, $250? Price of peace? It's well worth it. Do you understand?
The only payment he wanted back was sex for that money.
Do you understand? Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Does that make sense to you? For $250 and a Champion sweatshirt, I can have peace, or I can have him annoyed with me, feel as if he's been used, feel as if he's been taken, feel as if he's been abused, feel as if he's been made a fool of.
I did all the work there, too.
Sorry.
Not ever again.
Do you understand what I mean? He can't control himself.
Oh, I know.
That's what you want?
No.
You're an idiot if that's what you want. So I'm going to help you along. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $250. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It was one of them things, let me borrow the money and I'll do anything for you.
He's just jealous that I moved on and that I'm not giving him sex anymore.
We were intimate at the time, so I made, sexual innuendos.
When he gave me the money, not the loan, not the borrowing that he's talking about, when he gave it to me, he said, well, I get sex when I want it. And I just snickered.
I do miss her and I do care about her.
When he got scared, when we were serious and backed out, I decided I wanted something more serious.
It's one step to getting to know somebody.
And I couldn't be with him.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Skalkos versus Boucher. Step forward, please.
Deborah Skalkos is suing 9-year-old Russell Boucher Jr. and his mother, Christy, for damage to her car. Deborah says Russell dinged it with a shopping cart.
Miss Skalkos, is that right?
Yes.
According to your complaint, this young man right here accidentally dented your car with a shopping cart.
Correct.
You believed he and his mother are responsible
Correct.
for the dent. Miss Boucher says neither she nor her son are responsible for the dent on your car. So tell me where you were when this happened and when.
Okay. On the evening of April 20th, I was driving my car in a shopping area, and as I was getting ready to cross a speed bump, this little boy here, he yells, "Watch out," and a shopping cart came crashing into my car. And he says, "I'm sorry, ma'am, it slipped out of my hand." And there were cars behind me, and I wanted to pull into a parking stall to get out and look at my car. And I did, and there was a small dent in my car, and then I tried to find the little boy, and he was gone, and I didn't know what store he went into.
Okay, so you did not see him with the shopping cart in his hand?
I saw him pulling out the shopping carts, and it came crashing into my car.
Madam, I want to know exactly what it is that you saw. Don't make anything up.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes.
I read your complaint, and what you just testified to is different from your complaint. What you just testified to was you saw the little boy.
Yes, I did.
And you saw the cart hit your car.
Correct.
But you never saw his hand on the cart.
Correct.
And he said to you, "I'm sorry, it slipped out of my hand."
Correct.
Is that what you saw?
That's what happened, yes.
Is that what you saw, is my
Yes.
question. So you didn't see him trying to pull the cart out of the long row of carts, and it
Correct.
slipped out of his hand, right?
Right.
All right, because that's what you wrote in your complaint. So that was a mistake. You were mistaken about that.
Yes.
Should not be mistaken about that, because you signed it and you read it. You say I noticed a young boy standing on the sidewalk and pulling a shopping cart out of the cart holder. And my question to you is, you didn't see that.
I didn't see him pull the cart out.
All you saw was him standing there.
Yes.
The cart coming towards you.
Correct.
And the cart hitting your car.
Correct.
And then he yelled, "Watch out."
Yes, he did.
And then, according to you, he said, "I'm so sorry, ma'am."
Yes, he did.
He didn't say, "I'm sorry, it slipped out of my hand." That's not what you said in your complaint.
But that is what he said. He said, "It slipped out of my hand."
Okay. Tell me your name.
Russell Voucher.
Russell, how old are you?
9.
Have you ever watched this program?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
How many times have you watched it?
A couple of times.
And I think that your mom is very proud and very supportive of you, right?
Yes.
And I think you're a nice boy.
Thank
So you're going to tell me the truth today about what happened that day, even if it was a little different from what you told your mother. Got it?
Yes.
Because otherwise, bad things are going to happen here.
Okay.
Got it? Okay. Now, your mom went in shopping.
Yes.
And at some point, she told you that she needed another cart.
Yes.
So what did you do?
I went out to get another cart, and when I went out the exit, there was one right next to the exit on the left-hand side. So then I was grabbing the cart, and then I saw it going. I ran after it, and I yelled,
Now, you
"Watch
grabbed
out."
the cart. Stop right there.
Okay.
You grabbed the cart.
Mm-hmm.
How did you grab it? Show me with your hands.
I went like this.
So you grabbed it and you touched the handlebars?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then you tried to wheel it around?
Yes.
And then what happened?
And then when I saw the shopping cart going.
So it slipped out of your hand?
Because like there was 2 carts. I was grabbing one out of the cart stack, and then there was one on the side of the exit. I was grabbing the one out of the cart stack. I didn't grab it completely. It was halfway out, but it wasn't that one that went. It was the one next to the exit that went.
Okay,
And I
but you
ran
touched
after
it. Your cart touched it. The one that you were pulling touched it.
Yes.
And then you went inside. When you went inside, did you tell your mother?
Yes.
What did you tell?
Cart that was rolling down. I started running after it, and I couldn't catch it. I said, "Watch out," and then that's all I told her.
But you didn't tell her about the fact that you were touching the cart with the other cart, and that's when it started to roll down.
No.
All right, she's going to love equipped to do. I certainly have some trouble trying to get those carts out of those cart holders, too, when we go shopping. You pull one, and all of a sudden you get 30. You don't want 30, all you want is 1. But I'm very glad you told the truth today. Okay?
Yes.
Good. Got it, Mrs. Boucher? It's a little different. Right. Not a major deal. Good for you.
Thank you.
Told the truth today? If you had told your mother the truth right then and there, we might have avoided this whole problem. So you have to remember that for the future, okay?
Yes.
How much is the cost to fix your car?
$601.
Wow, let me see. What kind of a car do you have?
I have a 2004 Toyota Highlander.
Let me see. You have pictures of the car?
Yes.
There's a ding in it.
Yes, that's it.
There are 2 dings.
Mm-hmm. The shopping cart, it dinged it.
Well, I'm going to give you some advice, okay? I also have a very nice car, and somebody last week dinged my brand new car, and we called the ding doctor. And for $150, the ding doctor comes to your house and pulls out the ding. Not $600, $150. And I am sure, where do you live?
In Rancho Cucamonga.
Oh, that's in California.
Yes.
Where every person has 9 cars. I guarantee you, you will find a ding doctor for $300 that will come and pull out these 2 dings in your car. Okay? Not $600. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $300. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused.
His son's former friend, 20-year-old home health aide Crystal Davis, for vandalizing his home. William says Crystal and her friends threw 2 open cans of paint through his front window.
Yeah, this is case number 193 on the calendar in the matter of Richard versus Davis. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Is this your mother?
Yes.
Mr. Richard, it is your claim that the defendant, along with 2 others, vandalized your home a little over a year ago.
Yeah.
Is that right? Now, Ms. Davis says that while she was with these two other people who vandalized your home, she really didn't do anything herself. She was just in the car with them.
Yes.
Okay. Let me see if I understand the relationship between the two of you. Your mother was dating his son.
No, she wasn't dating his son.
She was what with his son?
He worked on her cars and he helped fix things around her house.
You mean there was no relationship other than that of a handyman with your mother? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right, sir?
No, sir.
It is your claim that your son and this lady had a relationship.
My son lived with her about 2 years.
In her house?
In her house.
And it is your claim that the relationship was more than that of just a handyman.
Yes.
And at some point, you got annoyed with his son.
Yes.
Why, Miss Davis? I'd like you to speak up so I can hear you. I'm getting older.
He threatened my mom's life. He put his...
Why would he do that?
He was crazy. He was jealous. I don't know.
He was jealous? Well, why would a handyman be jealous of your mother?
He liked her and she didn't want nothing to do with him.
Did he live in your house?
For a couple months.
So the answer is he lived in your house?
Yes.
And he liked your mother?
Yes.
And she didn't like him?
No.
Tell me about the vandalism to your house, Mr. Richard.
They thrown 2 buckets of paint through the window, and it went all over the furniture and carpet and everything.
Do you have pictures of the house?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I see them, please? Had your son moved home when this happened?
No, he was living with me because we was remodeling the place.
What I'm asking you, Mr. Richard, is had your son left Miss Davis's home at that point?
Yes.
Now, tell me what happened on June 30th, Miss Davis. And I want you to keep your voice up and keep your eyes over here.
He had called my mom several times that day, threatening her life. And
You mean his son?
Yes. And he had called my grandparents, threatening them. He threatened me and my brother's life. I told a couple of my friends what he had been saying, and...
You told who?
2 of my friends.
Names?
Chuck and...
Chuck what? Who else did you tell?
Well, his friend. I don't know his name.
You told them what?
What his son had been doing.
Okay. And then what happened?
They said they knew how to get back at him. They got 2 cans of paint, and we drove in his car.
In whose car?
Chuck's.
And where did you go?
To his son's house.
Well, you didn't know Chuck's friend, is that right?
No, I'd only met him a couple times.
And Chuck? Does Chuck know his son?
Yeah, he's met him.
Where?
At my mom's house.
But you knew where he lived?
Yes.
They didn't know where he lived. So you had to give them directions?
Yes.
Right. So you gave them directions on how to get there. And what happened when they got there?
They pulled up in front of his house and got out, threw the paint through the windows, got back in the car and left.
Okay. On June 30th, my friends took it upon themselves to vandalize Tony Richards' house. That's what you wrote here, right? As is stated in the police report, I didn't throw the paint, so no charges were filed. Did you tell the police that you went to Chuck's friend's house when they gathered the paint together?
No.
No. Did you tell the police that you gave them directions on how to get to Mr. Richards' house?
No.
No. How come you told me? Because I asked you?
Yes.
And because you knew that you couldn't lie to me. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So, what makes you think that you are not responsible for the damage to Mr. Richards' house?
Because I didn't do it.
Because what?
I didn't actually throw the paint.
Is there something wrong with you?
No.
You are responsible. You instigated it. You were involved in gathering the materials for the vandalism. You were responsible for directing these other 2 people, if they were in fact the ones that threw the paint, directing them how to get to Mr. Richards' home, something that they did not know. You are responsible. You understand?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Your son is in all probability a nut. That doesn't mean that she wasn't a lonely lady, but your son is a nut.
And later today...
How long have you been married, sir?
43 years, August 31st.
And without asking you any more, you've had enough.
That's right.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. William Richard says his son's former friend vandalized his home with paint. Crystal Davis says she didn't act alone.
Now, you decided not to pursue this matter because your son asked you not to. Is that right?
My son did it on his own. I didn't know nothing about it.
Did what on his own?
He didn't press charges on it because he made a deal with her mother.
Drop the charges. Shh.
That she would not file charges against him if he wouldn't file charges against them. The next day, she filed charges against my son.
Is your son in jail now?
Yes, ma'am.
Is he crazy?
No, ma'am.
How many times has your son been arrested?
I say 3 or 4 times.
That is not true.
Step up. Ms. Davis, clearly you exercised poor judgment in having this person move into your house. I'm surmising that there was more to this relationship than either you're telling me or that your daughter's telling me.
Oh, there's more.
There's more. Okay. Do you know how many times Mr. Richard's son was arrested?
36 times on separate accounts.
Can I see, please?
Yes.
How many of those involved you?
He was never arrested on my account, unfortunately.
Okay, but he was arrested 36 times on other charges.
On other charges, such as armed robbery, all those there listed.
Check if the defendant's criminal history reveals that he has been arrested 36 times on such violent charges as armed robbery, breaking and entering, prowling, burglary, DUI, carrying a concealed weapon, a machete, drug possession, felony battery.
I don't know nothing about that.
Oh, well, you got to listen. You got to pay more attention to what's happening in your own family, Mr. Richard. You understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That, madam, does not excuse trashing his house. You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I see the bill for cleanup of this house, please?
Your Honor.
What?
May I get to say something
Sure.
else? All these papers here are restraining orders that I filed.
I think he's a bad person. Miss Davis, that doesn't give your daughter license to trash Mr. Richard's house. Do you understand that?
I understand that.
Right, it doesn't give her license to take the law into her own hands and throw paint through a window at his house.
I understand that, Your Honor.
Good, that's all.
It's not all. What this man has put us through, and
Which
my
man?
family, his son.
He is not responsible for his 43-year-old son. Are you responsible for what your daughter did?
In a way, yes, I guess I am.
Good, then you can pay the damages. His son put you through a lot. What possible motive would you have to bring a nut into your house?
He was referred to me as a mechanic and a handyman.
So you bring a 40-some-odd-year-old man into your house. You have no idea about his background. It turns out he's been arrested 36 times. That doesn't make you a genius.
Well,
in any event, his son may have caused you all kinds of aggravation, but that doesn't give your daughter license to trash Mr. Richard's house. And if you don't see it, then I understand why you brought this 40-year-old felon into your house.
Your Honor.
What?
My son met her at a bar.
Listen to me. Your son is where he belongs. He is in jail. I hope.
But this is what brought everything up.
Listen to me.
To this deal.
Listen to me.
So.
Your son is in all probability a nut. That doesn't mean that she wasn't a lonely lady. But your son is a nut. That doesn't excuse what she did, and for that you're going to get paid. And since her mother says, well, I'm partially responsible for what she did, she can help.
Well, I certainly wish the law had helped us in all this whole time.
Madam, if you exercised better judgment, you wouldn't be standing here today. That doesn't excuse what Mr. Richard's son did to you and your family. It doesn't excuse the fact that the law may have been slow in moving to get him out of your life, but it does not excuse your daughter's criminal behavior.
So what about responsibility of the two gentlemen who did do actually throwing of the paint?
Listen, you can, if you like, sue them and say, my daughter didn't act alone. There were 3 of you. It's not up to him to go find these 2 other people. She doesn't even know the name of one of them, according to her, which I don't believe. How is he supposed to find out where they are? She knows where they are. She enlisted their assistance. It's her responsibility. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
The system is certainly for the criminal, not for the innocent victims.
She's playing the victim because every time something comes up, she calls the police, has them arrested for stalking.
She would never got involved with something like that if it hadn't have been that this man had been harassing me.
We met her in a bar. 15 minutes later, they had her out on the hood of a car.
His son has stalked my mom.
I don't know that. That was between my son and her mother.
I didn't actually do it, and anything he did get, he deserves.
I would have pressed charges against her for criminal.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Dallahan versus Tinley, step forward.
Plaintiff Ross Dallahan is suing his daughter, day spa owner Karen Tinley, for the return of $500 he paid for a family picture. Karen says her father is bitter because her mother left him.
Mr. Dallahan, Miss Tinley is your daughter.
Yes, it is.
And you are suing your daughter for $500 because you say you gave her $500 and there were certain stipulations. There was a contract. The contract was she was to do certain things. She was to prepare a photo album. She was supposed to bring grandchildren to come to visit you and a couple of other things, which she didn't do. And therefore, since she didn't fulfill her portion of the contract, you want your money back.
That's right.
Your daughter says that this money was given without stipulation and that you're just angry because your wife doesn't want to come back to you. Your wife left you, sir?
Yes, she does.
And this is your mother, I assume?
Correct.
And she's happy being without you and she doesn't want any part of you and therefore you're angry, so you want this money back.
That's correct.
How long have you been married, sir?
43 years, August 31st.
And without asking you any more, you've had enough.
That's right.
You fulfilled your sentence.
Thank you.
Mr. Dallahan? Got it?
No, I don't.
So tell me about this $500 that you gave your daughter.
On April 14th of this year, my wife decided that she would begin talking to me after all efforts of reconciliation, trying to go to marriage counseling, would not work. She said that she would start talking to me again, and she agreed that she would start dating me again, and as a result, I gave her $1,400 with no stipulation.
Okay.
That's my wife.
Okay.
The same day, I gave my daughter Karen $500 with stipulation.
And what did you say to her when you gave her the $500, and what did she say to you?
First of all, I thanked her for taking good care of my wife.
Okay.
And I said, I want you to have this money, but there are 3 things that I want from this. One is a family album to show that you're going to be part of my family again and let me be a father to the family, which you've never been able to do. The other stipulation was that she allowed me as a father to prepare a meal for her, her husband, and 2 daughters to come into my home so I could tell them as a father what I would like to see as a family reconciling.
Okay.
And the third one was take the money that I give you that is left over from the album. I want you to divide between the 4 of you.
Which 4?
Her husband and her 2 daughters.
So?
So the first of the next month, I talked to my wife on the phone again, and I asked her about if she had the album made for me, and she said no, because she's been hauling the girls around too much.
Go ahead.
Anyway, I said, well, can I come by the house and pick up the album? My wife said, I don't think that's a good idea.
She said that there was no album. How could you pick it up if there was no album?
That's right. She
Yeah.
never did that.
Okay.
So then my wife decided to break off all communication with me, and as a result, because I didn't get what I asked for, I called up, and even though she wouldn't answer the phone, I left a message that I wanted the money returned. And she did not return the money.
Okay. Ms. Tinley, I'll hear you.
For one thing, there was never any photo album mentioned at all.
Look at me. What was mentioned? He handed you $500.
Right.
What did he say?
He says, well, here's $500 for taking such good care of your mom. And I says, I don't mind taking care of my mom. You know, she's my mom. I love her. I'd do anything for her. So to me, that was a gift.
Well, what did he say about a photo?
He said, I would like to have a family picture. And I said, I don't have one. He says, well, he says, you've got money. He says, you can have one made. I didn't have a problem with that.
Good.
So...
What else? Did he say anything about bringing your family over to his house?
Not to his house. He says, I have something I want to tell your family. Because up to this point, he has never admitted that he was wrongdoing with my mom or anything. And he admitted that to my mom that day. He says, everything that has happened is my fault. And I was surprised to hear that.
Okay.
But 2 weeks later, I mean, I don't have a family that lives at home. So to get a family picture done in 2 weeks is a little bit impossible for us.
Okay. So what happened? So he called and said, where's the picture?
Conversations, he'd been calling and was not being very nice on the phone. So we quit answering the phone. If his number came up, we didn't answer the phone. 2 weeks later, one of the messages was, if you don't do what I want you to, you know, you just send the money back, baby. That was his words. I remember that.
All right. So what I'm getting, Miss Tinley, is minimally, in his head, he expected a family picture for this $500.
Right.
In his head. You have a picture of you at home?
I do.
You have a picture of your 2 daughters at home?
I do.
So this is what I want you to do. I want you to take the picture of you, the 2 girls, take them over to a drugstore where they have one of those machines where you put the pictures in and it makes a copy?
Right.
You're prepared to do that?
I can do that. I can do that at my home.
Perfect. I want you to do that. You're going to do that within the next 3 days.
I can do that.
And then you're going to send it to your father.
Okay.
That's what you're going to get, sir. Right?
That's right.
Great. Very good. And then she gets to keep the $500. But I know this is going to be difficult for you. But there'll be a time, sir, that I'm telling you, you're a very nice-looking man.
Thank you.
And you seem to have lots of personality. And you've got a little bit of zip in your step. Yet, right?
That's right.
You're going to find somebody who's just going to be crazy about you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Appreciate it.
Not her.
Not me.
Good luck.
Oh, thank you.
Bye-bye.
These are excused. You may step out.
Suing his former landlord, museum administrative assistant Maria D'Alessandro, for having him falsely arrested and for slandering him. Maria says Derek violated a restraining order.
All rise. All rise. Yes, this is case number 468 on the calendar in the matter of Broussard versus D'Alessandro. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Have a seat, ma'am.
Mr. Broussard, this young lady used to be your landlord.
Yes.
And according to your complaint, she embarked upon a course of conduct of harassment, filing false restraining orders against you, ultimately evicting you from the place where you had lived for some period of time. You want to be compensated for that.
Right.
And Ms. D'Alessandro said everything that she said was in her applications were true, and you were a terrible tenant. You also have a claim against her for slander. You say that when you ultimately applied to other apartments to rent, and they called her to verify your tenancy, she said bad things about you, so it made it virtually impossible for you to get another apartment.
That's correct.
Now, I gather, Mr. Broussard, that you lived in this house. It was a house?
She lived in the house up front. I lived in an apartment in the back.
And you had lived there prior to Miss D'Alessandro moving in because a relative of hers owned the house, and you were the relative's tenant.
Right.
Who was the relative?
My mother.
And what was her name?
Loretta Wallace.
When did you first move into this apartment in the back?
It was approximately 7 years ago.
Did Loretta Wallace ever bring eviction proceedings against you?
Never.
When for the first time did you file notice to quit or pay against the plaintiff?
That would have been in early October 2003.
What happened?
After I had received title to the house, or during the time the transfer was going on, I was in the process of sort of getting my ducks in the row to start making renovations on the apartment building.
What apartment building?
There's the house in the front is where I live. There's a 3-unit apartment building at the rear of the property. And
you live in one of those units?
Right.
Go ahead.
Everything was going smoothly as far as I was concerned, and I had actually started to make renovations in one of the other apartments and had told Mr. Broussard and his girlfriend, I said, look, you know, I'm going to be doing the same thing to your unit at some point very soon, and, you know, just to let them know what was going on and that I didn't forget about them.
When you were making the renovations in the other unit, where were the tenants in the other unit?
That unit was vacant, and the renovations were very extensive.
Go ahead.
So at the end of September, I was at home and I was watering the lawn, and Mr. Broussard came and knocked on my screen door and was complaining about the fact that water was getting on his girlfriend's car. And I told him, I said, you know what, just a minute, I'm on the phone, I'll be with you as soon as I can. He insisted, and he became belligerent, and I stepped outside of the kitchen because I was going to go to the back and simply turn the water off just to get him off of my back. And then he engaged in this verbal tirade in my face so close that he started to spit on me. And it was at that time, it was like, okay, you know what, that's it. You know, I had to do what I felt I needed to do in order to ensure my personal safety, because I was living on the property at the same time, and I didn't feel comfortable with him being there anymore, let alone the fact that he and his girlfriend were going to have to move anyway, because I was going to have to gut the unit to renovate it.
Got it?
Got it.
I didn't have any problems with them, and neither
Let me
did my
ask you this
mother.
question, sir. You want to give me your version of what happened?
Yes, I do, ma'am.
On that date in
Part
October?
of that was true. She did have the sprinklers up real high, and she was home. I went and knocked on the door. I said, Maria, you're soaking our cars. And she looked at me and she said, well, you should have moved them, and slammed the door in my face. And I was shocked. I guess I was holding the screen door, and I must have closed it too hard, and I really upset her. Next thing I know, she comes flying out the door, getting in my face. Now, she's a woman challenging me as if she's a man. We exchanged a few words, a few unpleasantries, I won't lie about that. But I never put my hands on her, and I called myself, so you know what? Let me get away from her before she says I did something to her, before somebody sees me arguing with a woman. As I'm walking away, her boyfriend comes flying up, and I'm walking away going to my house. He comes and gets in my face, and he says, well, basically, Derek, you and Denise have to move. I said, who are you? He said, that's my girlfriend.
Would you stand up straight, please?
I said, well, this doesn't concern you. I said, I can stay here as long as I want to. You don't have anything to do with this property or this matter. I said, get out of my face. So I turned and I walked in the house. And me knowing her, the type of person she is, I knew she was going to do something treacherous, you know, by the 1st of the month. We decided we're going to make sure this rent is due exactly on the 1st. I don't want any funny business with her. Well, we paid our rent on the 1st. She accepted the rent. I have a canceled check. I have a receipt.
Can I see it, please? Mr. Alessandro, did you speak to an attorney before you decided that Mr. Broussard and his girlfriend were going to have to move so that you can do renovations?
Yes, I did, ma'am.
And did the attorney tell you that you can't have them move just because you decided to do renovations on their unit?
No, he did not.
He should have.
Well, and that was
He should have.
Ma'am, that was not the reason why I proceeded with the eviction proceedings against Mr. Broussard.
Just
no,
a second.
it was not.
Oh, yeah, it was.
No, it was not.
The coincidence of you renovating one apartment and then saying to me a moment ago, and he was going to have to move anyway because I was going to totally gut his apartment. Oh, no, he wasn't.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
Oh, no, he wasn't.
That's the reason why I filed for eviction against him.
That's the exact reason, because that's what the lawyer probably told you.
No, he did not
There
tell
has
me
to be
that.
a reason for you. Ms. D'Alessandro, I want to tell you something. You think you're smarter than I am?
I do
You
not,
are
ma'am.
not. You are not. And I've been a judge for a very long time, and things usually happen in a rhythm. And let me explain the rhythm to you that is factual. Fact is, he lived there since 1997. Fact is, between 1997 and 2003, neither you nor your mother before you had occasion to file any kind of charges against Mr. Broussard or his girlfriend. Fact. The same month, according to you, that the title passed to you in the house, you decided to get your ducks in the water and remodel the unit behind the house. And according to you, he came and got in your face on that day, and you decided you had to do something to get him out because he was going to, according to you, quote, a moment ago, he was going to have to move anyway because I was going to gut the apartment. That's what you just told me. Those are the objective facts. And what you would have me believe is that all of a sudden this man who had been a reasonable tenant for 7 years became a psychopath.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You just said to me the reason I gave him the notice to leave was because I felt unsafe. Well, what is it? Rent or unsafe? Think hard. Think hard. Rent unsafe.
And later today,
I was pushed to the ground like this. I felt feet kicking my head and my neck.
And when the cops arrived, what happened, sir?
They cuffed me for drinking and being underage.
He was drunk.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Derek Broussard says former landlord Maria D'Alessandro had him falsely arrested for violating a restraining order. Derek also says after he moved out, Maria slandered him to potential landlords.
On October 1st, he gave you a check dated September 30th.
Yes.
I have a receipt for it.
Yes,
Did you
ma'am.
file a notice to quit because he had not paid rent?
No, I was advised to file the 3-day as well as the 60-day based on the fact that Mr. Broussard was habitually late in paying his rent over a period of time.
Just a second. So what you're telling me is that you filed a notice for him to vacate the premises, not because he was late in October, because he wasn't late in October, because he paid you the rent on time.
Right.
But because it started to bother you that before that he hadn't paid his rent.
It didn't bother me. It didn't bother me, and it didn't bother my mother.
So what did you file a complaint for?
I filed the complaint because I felt unsafe with Mr. Broussard being there after he verbally attacked me.
Then what I'm saying to you is, you're not following me, madam. What I said was, he didn't bother anybody before, didn't bother your mother before, didn't bother you before. When he started to bother you was in October when you decided to make renovations on the apartment. Those are the objective facts.
I did not make the decision in October, ma'am. I had started the work on the unit earlier in that summer, approximately June or July.
On his unit?
No, because they were still in it. I couldn't do it. Right. But that is not the reason why I filed eviction against them at all.
I don't believe
My
you.
mother, I have evidence in here that shows that prior to 2003, Mr. Broussard had a record, a pattern of actually tendering checks that came back in SF.
You just told me, madam, you got to keep your story straight. I'm speaking and you're not listening. You just told me that the reason you gave him the notice to quit was not because of rent. You just said to me the reason I gave him the notice to leave was because I felt unsafe. Well, what is it? Rent or unsafe? Think hard. Think hard. Rent unsafe.
The rent was not the rent was not the issue.
Okay. Now the rent was not the issue. Is that I'm speaking? The rent was not the issue. Can I see your notice to leave? Do you have it?
It's in there. And here's the
Just a minute. Shh. Well, you certainly say here that the reason you gave him the notice, madam, was because of rent.
What document is that you're looking at?
Take a look.
I will say, in my defense...
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
Pay attention to me. What's the reason you give in the notice for him to leave?
The attorney's office filed this on October the 15th. They made an error, and I have a note in here that verifies that.
Give it to me.
The note?
No, give me the papers back.
The detainer.
Give me the papers back.
The attorney's office acknowledged that they filed the unlawful detainer in error.
When did you file your application for a protective order?
October the 24th.
So, October 15th, they acknowledged they made a mistake, and they withdrew that.
No, not on October the 15th. Well, they did not acknowledge that they made the mistake. I did not know that the unlawful detainer had been filed until the morning of October the 21st, and I have a copy of that paper in here. Oh, okay. Now, on October the 21st, when I called the attorney's office to say, what are you doing? I called you on October the 2nd to tell you that they had paid their rent in full and to remove the 3-day and maintain the 60-day.
So you told them that on the 21st of October?
That was the only time I knew that the unlawful detainer had been filed.
Listen to me carefully. So now we get to this objective data. The objective fact is that on the 21st, because you knew that you couldn't get them out because they had in fact paid their rent, right?
That's not...
3 days later, you filed a protection order against them. Now let me see the allegations on which you based the protective order. Let me see it.
Here's a restraining order. Is that what you're asking
I
for?
want to see the underlying allegations where she filed for a protective order. Underlying allegations. Can I see it, please? Description of the conduct. October 2nd, defendant observed plaintiff banging loudly on her back door, garbage left in the area surrounding plaintiff's residence, and the defendant observed burning rubber in the driveway. October 3rd, he called you a name. October 17th, broken beer bottles left in front of her garage. So all of these things happened, and you filed this 3 days after, you told the lawyer you better withdraw that because he paid his rent.
That's because I was hoping he was just going to leave me alone.
Madam, you are full of baloney.
No, ma'am, I am not.
I believe that the reason you got him out and the reason you filed for a violation is because there was no other way to get him out. He had been a tenant. He'd been a tenant for 7 years. You wanted to renovate those 3 apartments, and the only way to get him out was to have him arrested, which is what you did. Judgment for the plaintiff, and the amount requested, $5,000.
That's not the reason why. Good, congratulations, you got your money.
Excuse me, step out. Judge Judy.
Good, you got you some money now.
I was trying to get over it, but something inside of me told me don't let her get away with this.
It's breaking beer bottles. Okay, so what? I cleaned it up.
38 years, been a law-abiding citizen, and for her just to say, take him away, like I'm a piece of meat.
It's a lot more pleasant place to live now.
She's had ex-boyfriends vandalize her property, so she felt like she could blame it all on me.
He can move on. I've moved on.
Oh, man, I'm so happy. I love Judge Judy.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Ward versus Ortega, step forward, please.
Office manager Kelly Ward is suing fellow concertgoer, 19-year-old student Filiberto Ortega for falling on top of her during a show. Kelly says a drunken Filiberto gave her whiplash.
Miss Ward, you went to a concert, a musical concert?
Yes, I did.
And Mr. Ortega was also a guest at that concert, paying custom. Don't get smart with me, sir. Is your claim that Mr. Ortega got drunk? While he was drunk, he fell on top of you and injured you.
Correct.
You want to be compensated for your medical bills and for your pain and suffering.
Yes.
And Mr. Ortega said that that's what happens when you go to a concert. He doesn't think that you were injured. He was drinking that night, but he doesn't think that he was so drunk that his falling on top of you, which he hardly remembers, was as a result of his being intoxicated. Is that right, sir?
I'll admit I was wrong for drinking that night, and I learned my lesson, definitely learned my lesson.
Well, let's start with Miss Ward. What concert was it?
It was a Dave Matthews concert on October 5th.
And tell me exactly what happened.
Well, I can tell you what I remember. My witness can kind of finish it up for me. Her and I were sitting in our seats at the time. She was on the end. I was sitting right next to her. All of a sudden, all I knew, I felt something in the back of my head. I was pushed to the ground like this. I felt feet kicking my head and my neck. And from there, it was kind of a blur.
Then you can pick it up from there. Tell me your name.
Lori.
Lori what?
Langdock.
What did you see?
At first I felt something hit the side of my arm, and I thought maybe she's trying to get my attention. So I turned and looked at her and saw her slump forward in her seat, and I saw the defendant's legs were on top of her head and her neck, and his body was to the seat, in the seat to her left. And I had to kind of pick his legs up off of her, and he kind of fell farther over. Then she sat up just a little bit, and I just kept asking her if she was okay, and then he pushed a little bit past her and he kept falling back on the both of us, so I had to kind of help hold him up until he got right in the stairwell there, or in the stairs, and then I let go of him and went back to her.
You have any medical bills?
Yes, I do.
Can I see them, please?
Sure.
Okay, I'll hear you.
Where do I start? I really don't know where to start.
Start when you arrived at the concert, sir.
Right at the concert.
Who brought you?
We actually walked to the concert from a friend's house of mine.
Had you been drinking before you got to the concert?
Yes, ma'am.
What were you drinking?
Vodka.
Tell me what happened to Miss Ward.
I fell over like a couple rows of people, and I was unaware that I heard her that bad. Cops rolled up, and that's the day the music died for me. So.
What do you mean the day the music died for you? What does that mean?
It's a reference to a song.
What happened to you, Mr. Ortega?
What happened to me? I fell. It's simple.
And when the cops arrived, what happened, sir?
They cuffed me for drinking and being underage. I got in trouble for resisting arrest, and that's all pending right now, so I don't know if I can really talk about it, but...
No, you shouldn't, because you behaved badly.
May I say something,
Sure.
Your Honor? When we came back, he was actually passed out in his seat at that time.
He was drunk?
Yeah.
I couldn't control myself, and I apologize if I hurt you.
Well, I'm glad you said that, sir, so that I don't have to scream and yell at you and make you appear foolish, which, believe me, if there's anybody who knows how to do that, I am a pro.
And I also mentioned one other thing. At this time, I'm unable to lift my 3-year-old daughter. I'm unable to lift a basket of clothes, my 5-pound cat. So
all as a result of being stupid.
And I don't know how long this is going to last. You know, I have a 6-month record for chiropractic, but I could go past that.
Did you see this chiropractor before this
No,
incident?
I've never seen a chiropractor before.
Judgment for the plaintiff, as requested. I've calculated your expenses, and they will amount to almost $4,000 by the time you're finished. Your request is for $5,000. It's more than reasonable. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please excuse you.
Is suing her daughter's boyfriend, 19-year-old warehouse worker Daniel Coons, for damage to her car and for stealing money from 2 bank accounts.
Your Honor, this is case number 82 on the calendar in the matter of Hoffman versus Coons. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Ms. Hoffman, is this your daughter?
Yes, ma'am.
Is she still seeing Mr. Coons?
Yes, Your Honor.
So I assume she's not happy being here today.
You're correct.
It is your claim, Ms. Hoffman, that Mr. Coon forged some checks of yours.
Correct.
And also took money out of your daughter's account.
Correct.
In addition to that, he had an accident while driving your car. Mr. Coon says, well, he acknowledges that he did forge some checks of yours, but he says that he paid you back that money in restitution by working for you. And he didn't steal as much as you claim he stole, and aside from that, he says your daughter knew all about it. And as far as taking money out of her account, she was aware of that. And as far as the car incident was concerned, your daughter knew he didn't have a valid driver's license. He had a suspended driver's license, so she gave him permission to drive the car, and therefore he's not responsible. Correct?
Correct.
Tell me about the car incident, sir.
I went down to the store. I was driving through the parking lot, and a lady backed out, and she actually bumped into me, and I got out and made sure everything was okay. She said it doesn't look like any damage is done here, and I was all, here's my number. We exchanged numbers, and I said, if there's any further problems, call me, and that was it.
Why should she call you if she backed into you?
I just told her to call me because if it was, we wanted to exchange insurance information later on.
I don't understand why she should call you. She backed into you.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said. I told her, I was like, you know, you backed out. I honked the horn, basically. Everything's all right. There was no damage done.
Was there any damage done to the car?
Yes, there was damage. I have proof that there was damage. And the thing was, he didn't even call and tell me that he backed in. He just, what happened was...
Can I see the pictures, please?
Yes. The other company called me, and that's how I found out.
The other company called you because she was filing a claim?
She filed a claim, yes.
She filed a claim? How could she file a claim? She, according to him, backed into him.
She said that he backed into her. So I
Where was the damage to your car?
Underneath the bumper.
Mr. Coons, when did you notify Ms. Hoffman that there had been this little accident?
I didn't notify her.
Okay. Now let's get back to your defense to this action. Your defense to this action is that you had a suspended driver's license, but your girlfriend knew about it when she gave you the car to go to the store.
Yeah. I was just going to run to the store, get some things at the store, and come right back. Your house is like half a mile from the store.
Why was your driver's license suspended?
For traffic tickets that I failed to appear on.
What kind of tickets?
Like 2 speeding tickets.
And?
And a red light violation.
So you're not a good driver?
I'm a good driver.
No, you're not. They don't take away the license of good drivers.
Yeah.
How many accidents?
Shh. Driving a car on a suspended license is...
illegal.
That's not something that Christina can wave a wand and do away with. That's only something that you have control over, Mr. Coons.
I didn't think it was a big deal, though, just to run down to the store.
It is a big deal, you idiot. When they say you can't drive, they don't say you can't drive except to go down to the store.
True.
Now, just for my own curiosity, sir, what is it that you had to get that was so important at the store? Insulin?
No.
What?
Just some stuff for dinner.
Your Honor.
Just don't say. Does it look like you're losing? Oh, does it look like you're losing so far? What?
I was going to.
Can I tell you something? Christina.
Yes.
He's still your boyfriend?
Yes.
He's an idiot. Maybe you're an idiot. I don't know if you're an idiot or not, but he's an idiot. And if you're going to hitch your wagon to his star, you're going to have a miserable life.
No, Your Honor.
What? Listen to me, Christina. Your mother's been around for a while?
Yes.
Right? You've been married?
Yes, ma'am.
Divorced?
Yes.
How many times?
Once.
Once. Been there, done that, couple of times. Been in the family court? Years. I got a nose. You hitch your wagon to this star, you're gonna have a miserable life. Just think about it. 10 years from now, you're gonna say, you know, I appeared before Judge Judy in this silly little case that was on television, and she, put your hand down, and she told me if I hitched my wagon to his star, I was gonna have a miserable life. She was right. Just listen to me. I don't know about you. You may be a loser too. Then maybe you belong together. Maybe two halves make a whole. I don't know. But if you certainly don't look it. How much is it going to cost to fix the bumper?
$971.
Good, $971. Now, Mr. Coons, explain to me why you took checks from Miss Hoffman and forged her name and cashed them.
I started hanging out with the wrong crowd, doing some stupid stuff, and I needed a bunch of cash.
Hanging around with a bad crowd doesn't mean you need cash. If you're hanging around with a bad crowd and you buy drugs and owe somebody for money for the drugs, and you need cash for that, otherwise somebody's going to break your knees, that's a reason. So you want to explain to me what you needed this money for?
Basically, I got into drugs, and I needed cash to support it. And then after that...
Were you supporting Christina's drug habit too?
No, I would never get into that.
Did Christina know you were doing drugs?
Nope.
So she's not very intuitive, right?
Nope.
You managed to conceal that from her,
Yep.
right? How did I know that, Mr. Coons? It's not anywhere in these papers, sir. Did you think that maybe I have a crystal ball?
Yep.
Experience. That's what I'm trying to tell Christina. How much money did he steal from you?
$1,320 out of my account.
I don't care what he took out of Christina's account. If Miss Stupid wants to stay with him, she'll deal with that.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What kind of drugs?
Oxycontin?
Why in the world would an attractive girl like you want to hook up with him?
Because I love him.
And later today...
How much child support do you pay for your other child?
None.
Why not?
I do for my other son, as well as I do for Michael while he's staying with his father here.
Don't talk to me with attitude. There's only one attitude here, and that's mine.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Donna Hoffman says her daughter's boyfriend, Daniel Coons, stole money from her and her daughter's bank accounts. Donna says Daniel took the money to support his OxyContin habit.
When did you find out that he took money out of your account?
Maybe a couple weeks or a month later.
Come. Stand up next to your mother, Christina. Here we go. How much did he take out of your account?
I think it was $650.
And you didn't find out that he took the money out of your account until after he took it out?
No, it bounced in my account.
So you didn't know he had done it?
No.
When you confronted him about it, what did he say, Christina?
He told me about it.
Well, what did he tell you?
That he bounced checks in my account.
No, what did he tell you? Come on. You just say to him, where'd you get the money from? Where did you get the checks from? What did you use the money for? Those would be intelligent questions, Christina. And what did he tell you?
He told me what he used it for and why he needed
what?
it. Drugs.
What kind of drugs?
Oxycontin.
And after you found out that the checks bounced, did he take any other money out of your account?
No, Your Honor.
Is that right, sir?
Yep.
I just changed my mind. Because, Mr. Coons, in your answer you say that Christina here knew all about it, that she was aware of it. She says she wasn't. You know that?
She put the checks in her account, so that would... she knew about the checks going in her account, but not them bouncing.
Not that there were no funds.
Yeah, exactly.
But you knew.
Yep, I knew.
But you didn't tell her.
Yep.
Well, then you misled me, sir. You misled me in your answer. Your answer suggested that she was a co-conspirator. All right. So let's understand, Christina. who he is. He stole from your mother.
Mm-hmm.
He stole from you. He's a 19-year-old drug addict. He says you don't use drugs. Is that true?
Yes, it is.
Why in the world would an attractive girl like you want to hook up with him?
Because I love him.
The uniform groans out here, Christina. The uniform groans out here, Christina.
Hmm. Your Honor, he's cleaned up also.
What are you doing now, Mr. Coons?
My uncle owns a trucking company. I'm trying to get my Class A license to drive for him.
That doesn't tell me what you're doing now.
Moving. He owns a moving company.
That doesn't tell me what you're doing now.
I'm cleaning my act up, making money.
So you want to be a mover?
Yeah, a driver.
What are you doing, Christina?
I work at Express and I'm a cosmetologist.
Is that what you want to do?
Hair? Yes, I do.
You living home?
Yes, I do.
Remember to take those pills every morning. Every morning. Maybe you'll wake up in time. Mr. Coons, did you go into a residential drug treatment program?
Yep.
For how long?
10 days.
That's a crash course, sir. That's a crash course. Did the program recommend that you go into residential treatment for a period of 18 months or whatever and stick with it?
Yeah, that's what they recommended, but...
And you decided that you didn't need that. Is that right?
That's right.
And you decided that you didn't need that despite the fact that you had stolen from Miss Hoffman, you stole from your girlfriend, you have half a dozen unresolved driving infractions, you had an accident with her car. All of those things don't suggest to you that maybe the professionals that told you a 10-day crash course doesn't make it. When you are so addicted to drugs, maybe instead of fooling around, you should go into a residential drug treatment program. But you knew better than the professionals, is that right?
Yeah.
Good girl, Christina. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,941. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
The bank called me and said this doesn't look like your signature, so I, of course, called him up and said, hey, what's going on?
She couldn't believe it. And then I was like, you know, I had to admit it right there.
I was saying, you know what, I think something's wrong. I think he's on drugs, and we started drug testing him, and he actually admitted to it.
I want to get married and have kids and do everything, you know, stay clean, do the right thing.
Yes, I see us being together for a very long time.
I would really hope that he would clean up, but I've told her that, you know what, once they start being like this, they're never going to change.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of McLean versus Clark. Step forward, please.
Meat cutter Michael McLean is suing the mother of his son, nurse Lachelle Clark, for the return of child support. Michael says money was taken from his paycheck while their son was living with him.
Mr. McLean, you and the defendant have a son together.
Yes, I do, ma'am.
And it is your claim that your son was living with you for a period of time at his mother's request.
Yes, ma'am.
And during that time, they were taking child support out of your check.
Yes.
And Miss Clark knew that the child was living with you, and she was the only one that could stop this child support
Yes, ma'am.
payment. She did not, and you want her to pay you back the money that you sent, or that
Yes,
was
ma'am.
taken out of your check, for your son while he was living with you.
Yes, I wanted her to stop it immediately.
And Miss Clark says, well, it was only temporary, and she was providing some things for him also.
Yes.
Right? Okay. How old is this child?
He's 11.
And why did he go and live with his father, Miss Clark?
He went to live with his father because at the present time, my landlord went up on my rent $300 because I had lost.
You were having a problem with housing.
Excuse me?
You were having a problem with housing?
Yes.
All right, that's the bottom line.
Michael McLean says the mother of his son, Lachelle Clark, accepted child support payments after their son started living with him.
So when did you call Mr. McLean and ask if he could take your son?
Around the 1st of January when I first started having my housing problem.
And when did he actually go to live with his father?
The 28th of January.
Is he still there?
Yes.
And how much is the child support order, Mr. McLean?
I want to say $272
a month.
What do you do for a living, Mr. McLean?
I'm a meat cutter. meat manager.
How many children do you have?
I got 3.
Do any of them live with you? You have to think
No.
about that? None of them live with you?
No.
Do you pay child support for any other children?
Yes, I do.
And what do you do for a living, Miss Clark?
I'm a nurse.
How many children do you have?
2.
Well, I know one is living with Mr. McLean. Where is the other child?
The other one is with his father also.
How much child support do you pay for your other child?
None.
Why not?
What do you mean? Because me and him have an understanding. This thing right here, I can't have
Just listen to me. Listen to me very carefully, Miss Clark.
I do for my other son, as well as I do for Michael while he's staying with his father here.
Well, listen to me. Don't talk to me with attitude. There's only one attitude here, and that's mine.
I will.
Listen to me very carefully, madam. There's only one attitude here. And Officer Byrd will tell you that that attitude is mine. So let me give you a primer course in parenting. When 2 people have a child, it is the responsibility of both parents to support them. So that if while your son is living with his father and you buy him things, clothes.
And anything else he needs.
Just a second. Clothes, doctor's visits, extra school activities, sneakers, right? That's what you're supposed to do.
Okay.
You're also supposed to be responsible for your child's portion of his rent, gas, electric, food, telephone. That's what his father is taking care of. He's not supposed to be sending you money so that you can spend his money on clothes for your child. That's money that you're supposed to be paying out of the money you make from being a nurse. So when your son went to live with his father, the child support should have terminated. The truth of the matter is, while your son is living with his father, you should be paying his father child support. And if you're not paying child support to the father of your other child, when your other child's living there, you're doing the wrong thing too. So let's figure this out. There are 4.3 weeks in a month times 4. Oh, got to turn it on first. 4.3 times 4. No, that's wrong.
Can I have it?
Yeah, you figured
His
it
child
out.
support was stopped in April.
What?
His support was stopped in April. We went to
So
court
just
about
a
this
second.
matter.
It was stopped in April.
8th, 408.
April 8th, so we just need 2 months. So it's 272 times 2. $544.
That's right.
Where do you get $1,136 from?
I must have underestimated the cost of it, but I also wanted to where I had to go file for court.
I'm sure she had to go. I'm sure she had to go.
No, you
don't. Don't speak to each other. You want to speak to each other? You do that outside. Here, you only speak to me. Okay. So let's say you had him for an additional 3 weeks. It's approximately $150. That would be $694 that you paid for support while he was living with you.
Yes.
Is she paying child support now? Did she pay you any child support in April or May?
No, she haven't.
Got away with murder. What you should have done is when you went in to have the child support stopped, you should have sued her for child support. Put your hand down. As long as the child is living with you, you have the right to sue for child support against the non-custodial parent. Tap your fingers. You may not like the message, but don't kill the messenger. That's the law. Just like when your child is living with you, you sue the non-custodial parent. Just because he's the father doesn't mean you get a free ride. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $694. That's all.
You're excused. You may step out.
Pay $272 a month.
Friend's niece, 23-year-old correctional officer Georgia Garza, for keying her truck. Georgia says Mary Ann is vicious and is making up a story.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 338 on the calendar in the matter of Kaiser versus Garza. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
Miss Kaiser, the defendant is your boyfriend's niece.
Correct.
Boyfriend?
Yes.
Niece.
Correct.
And it is your claim that she vandalized your car by keying it.
Correct.
According to you, Miss Garza, your uncle was highly inebriated. And he couldn't drive home from a club or a party that you were at?
That's correct.
So you and a friend decided to drive him home.
Yes, ma'am.
Where he was living with the plaintiff.
Yes, ma'am.
And what date was this? Do you remember?
We had went out on Thursday, it was July the 20th, and we left the club approximately at about 2:30 in the morning.
Were you with your uncle?
No, I was there with a friend, and we ran into him.
What made you think he was too drunk to drive home?
Because he was stumbling, and the guy from the door had taken his keys because he had parked right in front of the door.
So you volunteered to drive his car home?
That's correct.
What happened when you got to the house?
When we got to the house, Marianne had locked the door, and he was upset. We had to help him up the stairs. He started banging on the door. She came out. She started cursing and yelling that I had him out, and she was just saying all sorts of types of stuff. And we just helped him in the apartment. She kept telling us that we had to leave, and she was yelling at us. And my uncle was wanting us to stay there because he wanted us to drink another beer with him. And I was telling him...
That was the last thing you needed.
I was telling him that I had to go because I had to go home to my baby. And she was telling me to leave, and my uncle was persistent. And then they got into altercation. We proceeded towards the door. My friend opened the door. When she opened the door slammed because it was kind of windy outside. And she started cursing again. We were walking down the stairs. We just ignored her because she looked intoxicated herself. She was yelling at us down the stairs, and we just ignored her because she was making an idiot out of herself.
Okay. And you went home?
That's correct.
Okay. So your boyfriend went out that night?
Right.
Had he asked you to join him?
No.
Were you annoyed with him?
We were mad at each other at the time. So he decided to leave on his own, so he went.
And they came home?
They came home at approximately 2:35 in the morning.
Go ahead.
They stood at the door. When I opened the door, I said, "What are they doing here?" And he said, "Well, they're here to have a drink with me." And I said, "Well, they're not going to have a drink with you." She said, "Well, I had to drive him home." And I said, "Well, fine, thank you. Give me the keys." So I get the keys. They still step in. I stood by the door, and I told them, "You're not going to have another beer, so you might as well leave." Then I asked him, I said, "Who is this other girl?" He goes, "I don't know. It's her friend." And she goes, "My friend Lori." I said, "What are you doing bringing strangers home?" And then he goes, "Well,
you
they
were
just
wrong
gave..."
at that. You were wrong at that point.
And I asked him,
because you didn't know the story.
That she drove him home?
You didn't know the whole story. I mean, if she was with her friend, and they were leaving the club,
well, they were
he was drunk, and he was drunk, they weren't together.
Well, she had already told me.
Why are you being aggressive to her at all?
Because her and I do not communicate. She drove him home fine. I said, "Thank you, give me the keys." She gave them to me, and I said, "You guys can go home. You're not going to have another beer."
Okay, go ahead. No, she didn't say. Now. Listen to me, Ms. Kaiser. She didn't say she was going to have another beer. Your drunken boyfriend said.
She said he wants us to have another beer. I said, "You're not going to have another beer." So I repeatedly asked him to leave again and again, and they still wouldn't. So then I started, getting upset. Yes, I did. Her friend Lori slams the door open, rushes down the stairs. She starts cursing me, and she goes after her, doing the same thing too downstairs. So I did it up here. I did it up here too, yes. A few minutes later, I go try to move my truck from the back to the front, and I see them keying my truck. So I didn't say anything. I let them do it. I came back in, came to get him. He was out already.
You said that you saw them keying your truck? What were you going out to move your truck for at 2:30?
I was going to move it to the front.
Why?
Because I don't normally park it in the back. I always park it at the front. But there was no parking space at the time.
Yeah.
When they left, I saw that there was a space right there, so I went to go move my truck. And there they were.
At 3 o'clock in the morning?
I'm sorry?
At 3 o'clock in the morning?
At 3 o'clock in the morning. I just decided to go move it, and there they were. But it was a good thing I did. I saw them.
What did you see her do?
Writing all kinds of things on my truck. They were keying it, both of them.
Let me see the damage to the truck. You file a police report?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
I'd like to see it, please.
One of her favorite words is on my truck, too.
Is this the only police report you have, Miss Kaiser?
Yes, ma'am.
And you spoke to somebody on the phone? Or
Yes,
did you
ma'am.
go there?
No, I spoke to them over the phone. She said, "You might as well just give me everything over the phone because they're not going to do anything about it."
That's not true.
No, well, they were going to do the same procedure she was going to do with me over the phone.
The police would have done something about it, Miss Kaiser, if you had said to them on the phone, "I saw who did the damage." But you didn't say that to the police.
Yes, I told them.
No, you didn't. I contacted Miss Kaiser by phone in reference to the criminal mischief. Victim 1, that's you, believes Miss Garza involved party 1 and an acquaintance may have done the listed damage to the vehicle while it was parked at the above location, but is not sure.
They did do these damages to my truck.
Victim 1 stated that there are some vulgar words
And
keyed on the
Georgia
vehicle.
knows. She knows that they did it. I
That's
know.
not my question, Miss Kaiser. You give a police report. If you say to the police, my car was vandalized and I saw the perpetrators do it, then they write down perpetrator 1 keyed car, perpetrator 2 keyed car. I'm going to read to you again what the police department says you told them on the phone. Victim 1 believes Miss Garza and an acquaintance may have done the damage to her vehicle while it was parked at the above location, but is not sure.
I told them I know it was them.
You didn't tell them that you saw them do the damage, Miss
Yes, I did.
Kaiser.
I saw
No,
them.
you didn't.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Marianne Kaiser says her boyfriend's niece, Georgia Garza, keyed nasty slurs into the side of her truck.
Now, I'm not saying that they didn't do it. I want you to trust me. I'm not saying that they didn't do it. I'm saying that you just lied to me when you said you saw them do it. Because you didn't see them do it. You surmised that they did it because the car was in one condition when you parked it. It was in this condition the next day when you went out to look at it. Not at 3 o'clock in the morning, but the next day when you went out to look at it or when you went to drive it. And the only one who had an opportunity, an inclination to do the damage was her.
Right.
And her friend.
They did it.
But, Miss Kaiser, I want you to try to pay attention. I'm not saying they didn't do it. I'm saying you lied to me when you told me a moment ago that you saw them do it. Because if you saw them do it, that's what you would have told the police, and you didn't. You said you believe it was her, you believe it was her girlfriend, but you're not sure, which is why they didn't go out and arrest them. Now I'm going to get to you. You keyed her car.
No.
Oh, yes, you did. Oh, honey, yes, you did.
Why would I key her car if I don't even talk to her? Let there be one idiot, not two. She was the one yelling at the top of her lungs.
Miss Garza, there isn't a question in my mind that you keyed her car. You and your girlfriend keyed her car because you were out at the club all night, probably had a couple of drinks. You left your baby home, so you had to rush home to your baby at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's normal. But here you did a good deed by driving your uncle home, and what you were met with was this lady who was being very unpleasant to you. Unpleasant, rude,
right?
No question. Threw you out of the house. You drove your uncle home. You went out of your way. She was nasty to your girlfriend. She was nasty to you. You got outside, and you keyed her car.
Your Honor, she works at a bar. It could have been anybody.
Could have been, but I'm telling you it wasn't. It was you. Let me see the damage. Can I see the bill to fix the car, please? Now, ordinarily, Miss Kaiser, I want to tell you something. I would throw you out. I want you to listen carefully. And so would most judges throw you out if you come into court and you don't tell the truth. They would say, I don't care whether your claim is a valid one or not. You come into court and you lie. I'm not going to entertain your case. But in this particular case, since I am 100% certain that she and her girlfriend caused the damage to your car, and since there also isn't a question in my mind that the police said to you, if you didn't see who actually did it, then you just surmise it's her. There's nothing that we can do, because that's what you told them. You figured if you came into court and said to me, I saw her, then you would have your car fixed. Don't go into court and lie. You lie to a judge once, usually you don't get a second chance. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
All right. What year truck is this?
It's a 94 Chevrolet.
So you have no insurance on the car?
Yes, I do, but I didn't go that route because I wanted her to pay.
Oh, no. What's your deductible on the car?
$500.
Good. Go that route. It may be a little more difficult for you. It may be a little more costly for you in the long run, but your lie's got to cost you something. So go have the car fixed. You got a $500 deductible, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Nobody likes her. She just wants to blame me and my friend.
They wouldn't leave, so.
She was the one making an idiot out of herself, not us.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Gilbertson versus Johnson. Step forward, please.
33-year-old esthetician Vernita Gilbertson is suing former client, 42-year-old safety engineer Taryn Johnson, for unpaid house-sitting fees. Taryn says Vernita didn't do her job.
Miss Gilbertson, the defendant hired you to house/dog sit while she was on vacation. You made an arrangement. I think she was to be gone, according to your complaint, for 10 days.
Yes.
She was going to pay you $20 a day. It is your claim that you did your job. She came back from vacation and did not pay you.
Correct.
The defendant says you didn't do your job, so she's not going to pay you.
Okay.
How did you find this job?
Taryn was a client of mine at the wellness spa, and she came in for treatment, and we had talked about her going away on vacation with her mother, and I offered my services, and she agreed.
Were you supposed to stay at her home or just check on the home?
I was supposed to stay in the home.
What kind of a dog does she have?
Is her dachshunds?
Dachshunds, two of them.
Okay.
When was she leaving?
May 9th.
Did you stay in the house from the 9th until the 19th?
Excluding the 15th, which is the Tuesday. We were there. I took care of the dogs in the morning, and then in the evening we returned about 7 o'clock. And
Who's we?
My daughter and I. And then we decided to go into the jacuzzi about 9 o'clock. We invited 2 friends over. They came, and we went in the jacuzzi for about an hour. And then we decided to leave because there was all sorts of weird stuff going on. The TV went on by itself. The lights started flickering. I was like, that's it. We're out of here.
So what did you do?
We left. I made sure the dogs were secure. They had food, and then we left.
Did you stay there on the 16th?
Yes.
And the 17th?
I stayed until the 19th, until it was agreed upon.
So?
So, on the morning, the Wednesday morning following the night of the jacuzzi party and whatnot, I got a call from my neighbor right here, Don Sohegan, calling me, telling me that there had been a party in my property the night before that disturbed her as well as the neighbors on the other side of my house, and that she was awakened by my dogs crying outside the house approximately 2 a.m. that morning.
Step up. Tell me your name.
Dawn Sohegan. First of all, I had only seen her come to the house once. I get up early and I go
Well,
to
she
bed
had to
late.
have been there because the dogs would be dead after 10 days of not being fed or
Right,
walked.
but they're also on medication, and there are certain times of the day that she needs to be there, which she wasn't there at
7
those
and
times of
7.
the day.
Go ahead.
Then when the party happened, and it was a school night, a work night, what have you, and they're out carrying on in the jacuzzi, which it's late.
How many people did you see in the jacuzzi?
4.
So she's correct. There were 4 people.
And Judge, let me just add that I made it very clear that no one else was to be in the house because I have a swimming pool because of liability reasons.
Okay. What time did they finally leave the jacuzzi?
I really don't know that because I did go into my house and go to sleep.
What time?
I went to sleep a little after 10.
And then you didn't hear them anymore?
Not until about 1:30.
What happened at 1:30?
At 1:30, they had relocated the party inside the house, which her family room was right next to my bedroom window.
You mean the party of 4 people?
Yes.
Okay.
So I was awoken again at 1:30 in the morning. By 2 o'clock, they were leaving, but they left every single light on in the house, and the dogs were crying. They have a doggy door, but they were sitting on the steps crying and crying and crying.
So the next morning you called the defendant?
The next morning, I called her answering machine.
Did you contact the plaintiff at that time?
Yes, I contacted the plaintiff as well as my other friend, Paula Williams, who has a key to my home. She went to the house, and I don't know if Paula would like to indicate what happened when she went to the house.
You went to the house the next day on the 16th?
I went to Taryn's house on the Wednesday because
The
I was so
16th.
worried about the dogs. When I drove up, all the exterior lights were on. There were lights on everywhere in the house, and the dogs were running loose. The beds looked exactly as they normally do, and Taryn makes them up. The blankets, pillows, sheets
No, she
hadn't
hasn't
been
clearly.
ruffled.
Miss Gilbertson had not slept there on the 15th. She said she did not sleep there.
No, it looked exactly like it does when Taryn makes up
We
the
didn't
bed.
sleep in the bedroom.
Just a second. The 2 dogs were there?
The 2 dogs were there running in the house.
And they appeared to be fed?
The dogs were fed. There was food and water there.
Okay. So, other than the fact that the lights were on in the house, the house looked okay?
The lights were on in the house, but the towels had not been used that day.
I didn't ask. Had not been used. I'm asking you, other
Not
than the fact that
showering
the
there.
lights were on,
The lights were on.
the house was in, according to you, pristine condition.
No, she chewed the comforter.
Just a second.
It was in pristine condition.
Right. What you're saying to me was in such pristine condition, it's hard to imagine that anybody had slept there.
Correct.
Okay. I understand that. But the house was in pristine condition,
Yes,
the
it
dogs
was.
were okay.
Yes, they were.
Fine. What else?
I stayed at the house until 10 o'clock that night, and that's when Vernita and her daughter came.
Okay. Miss Johnson, did you tell Miss Gilbertson when you spoke to her after this party that she had on the 15th that you didn't want her to go back to the house?
No, because she had a key, and I was afraid of what might happen.
You did not tell her not to go back.
That's correct.
Well, then you have to pay her.
She didn't complete the duties. I had to change the. She never brought my key. I had to change the locks.
I tried to contact
She left
you.
the dogs loose in the house. They shredded a comforter.
Listen, you were away for 10 days. You didn't fire her on the spot on the 15th. If you had done that and said, listen, I'm outraged, I'm going to pay you up until the 15th. Don't bother to come back.
Well, why would I do? I put myself in danger. The woman had a key to my home.
She doesn't look dangerous to me.
I don't know her.
If you don't know her, then you don't give her a key to your house.
Exactly. I don't know.
If you don't know her,
I didn't know at that point in time until she didn't do what she said she was going to do, and had people in the home that I asked her for liability reasons not to have people in my home when I'm not there.
Listen to me. I don't disagree with you, but if you have an employee that you feel as if is not performing their job, then you pay them and you fire them. Now, if she had not done her job at all and didn't show up, and your dogs were in a state of dehydration, hadn't been fed, maybe we would have a story. But if you took 2 dogs to a kennel, it would have cost you more to take your dogs to a kennel where they would have been in a cage for 10 days as it was costing you to have a human being come to the house and on at least 9 out of the 10 days staying over at your house. 9 out of the 10 days because you could only establish that she was not there, sleeping there one night. So you have to pay her. Perhaps not for the one night that she didn't sleep there because you didn't do your job that one night.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That's fine.
And I don't care about this weird ghost thing, you know. You're a big...
Hey, it's true, though.
You're a big girl. Anyway, she owed you $200. I'm cutting that by 20 because you didn't sleep there. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $180.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Parties are excused, you know.
Is suing her ex-boyfriend, carpenter Ricardo Powell, for the return of property and damages due to an assault.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 438 on the calendar in the matter of Clemens versus Powell. You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Ms. Clemens, according to your complaint, you and the defendant lived together. You claimed that in September of last year, he assaulted you.
Yes.
Then again, there was some sort of an altercation in October of last year, and you were arrested. And it is your claim that after that, you were barred from going to the house, and Mr. Powell got rid of all of your property.
No, he has all my property.
You want it back, or you want what he got rid of? You want the value of it? Mr. Powell says that there was never an assault in September, at least not one perpetrated by him.
Correct.
And that the property that you're speaking of was property that you were supposed to retrieve with the assistance of a third party pursuant to a court order. You never got a third party to come and get your property, and he got rid of it.
Correct.
Okay. How long did you live together, Ms. Clemens?
2 years, a little over 2 years.
From when to when?
From November of 2000 until October of 2001.
2002. Were you living in his apartment, your apartment, or is it an apartment that you moved into together?
He moved into my apartment, and after that, we moved into a house.
So you were living in 2002 in a leased house?
Yes.
And in whose name was the lease?
Both of ours.
Is that right?
This is correct.
And when did the lease expire?
February 1st of 2003.
So at the time that you left the house in October of 2002, there was still a few months to go on the lease. Is that right? All right. Now I want you to tell me first, since you're suing for this assault that allegedly happened in September of 2002, I want you to tell me the circumstances surrounding that assault.
Me and Mr. Powell got into an argument, and basically it was the same thing, arguing about who did what, and basically we weren't getting along. We weren't getting along at all. And he hit me.
What time of the day? Where were you?
And it was nighttime, and I was in my room.
And he just hit you? Did he hit you with a fist? Did he hit you with an object? Did he hit you with a hand?
His open hand.
And what happened after he hit you?
I cried for a while. We argued some more, and he left out the room.
And then what happened?
The next day, I woke up feeling sore all over, so I went to the hospital.
You have a hospital report?
Yes, I do.
Let me see it. Where were you hit?
Here, there, and on my other arm.
You said he slapped you with an open fist.
He slapped me and he hit me a couple times.
Well, you didn't tell me that.
I'm sorry, I wasn't clear, but he slapped me and hit me a couple times.
Did you go to the police?
No, I did not. I refused
After you went to the hospital, where did you go?
I went back home.
Did you tell them at the hospital that you have a safe place to go?
Not exactly, no, because...
Well, that's what they say that you told them.
Yes,
that you had a safe place to go, and the safe place to go is you went home.
Yes, because he was at work. It was safe at home. He was gone.
Well, did you pack up your things and leave?
No, I did not.
Why not?
Because I was in love with Mr. Powell. We had had arguments before.
So then if you were in love with Mr. Powell and you decided to stay,
yes.
and I'm not interested in your suing him now because he slapped you in September when you went home and you decided to stay. Do you have children together?
No, we do not.
So the only thing that you have together is a lease?
Yes.
Do you work?
Yes.
Were you working at the time?
Yes.
So then you're not financially dependent upon him for any reason?
Oh, no, he was financially dependent on me.
So that there was no reason why you couldn't just pick up and leave?
I understand that, ma'am.
Who are these people here with you today?
My best friend, M.J. Andrews, and my ex-husband who took me to the hospital, and they're here with me to support me.
So you could have gone to either one of their houses, is that right, if you felt that you were in danger?
I don't feel like I was in that much danger because...
So then why are you suing him now?
I don't... The suing him for the violence is not important. What's important today is my things that were left in the house, and I did try to obtain...
Just 1 second. I'm not there yet. So what you're telling me is you just threw in this September incident for good measure.
They asked me what happened, and I told them.
Well, you could tell them, but you had no inkling to sue him for this. Fine. That's good, because from me you wouldn't get anything. I'm not even sure that it happened. Now I'd like you to tell me what happened in October. I'm going to you because according to you there was an assault in October.
Correct.
And she was arrested.
Correct.
Let me hear what happened.
Okay, basically what happened was, as she may have mentioned, that we were not getting along at this point in our relationship because of the different mood swings that she would have, as well as the what I would characterize as obsessive, possessive type of behavior towards me in our relationship. Yes.
How long did you know Miss Clemens?
I knew her for 2 years.
When you knew her, was she taking medication?
I wasn't aware of her taking medication until maybe 6 months in our relationship.
Either an antidepressant, is that what you take,
yes.
antidepressants?
Yes. I'm no longer on them. I no longer take them.
But you were taking them for quite a while?
Yes, and Mr. Powell knew because...
That's all, you were taking them for quite a while.
But Mr. Powell was aware of the time that I got the prescription, and he knew how long I was taking them and why.
Between 1995 and 2000, had you been taking antidepressants or any other psychiatric medication?
I only started taking Zoloft, which is an antidepressant, in 2001.
Okay.
Prior to that, no,
nothing. In October, sir,
yes.
You want to tell me what happened?
As she said, she was prescribed, I said she was prescribed medication, but she wasn't taking it, or if she was taking this medication, she was taking it with the addition of alcohol at the same time, which basically caused the violent mood swings. There was a lot of violence anyway. October 3rd, it escalated to the point where she pushed me through a glass door. The glass was already broken from an incident that she had broken this glass before for being upset with me, and that was basically how she showed her anger, was to break things and throw things. Anyway, the police were called in. She was arrested at that point.
On the 3rd of October?
Correct. There's a temporary protection order that's given with any domestic violence case. She violated that temporary protection order by constantly harassing and stalking me, as well as coming by the house, as well as the number of phone calls that she would call. Like I said, I have an answer machine that takes 50 messages. She would fill those up totally. I presented this to the police department, and they rearrested her for violation of the
When did they rearrest her?
November the 4th, I want to say, Your Honor. I'm not sure exactly when, but at that court date, she was dealing with some bad check things, as well as a preliminary trial on this domestic violence. They rearrested her that day because they had an arrest warrant out for her, but they couldn't find her. They got her when we went to court that day, so she was rearrested at that time. So I made sure that the judge understood that my problem is only this. I want this woman to deal with the medication and help herself. I even told him I don't even want her to have jail time, as opposed to, could you just make sure that there's something in place that she gets treatment for her symptoms? And basically what she was doing was she was causing me and my son, she was jeopardizing me and my son's life through all these different things.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
After she basically kept violating judge's orders and putting me and my son's life in jeopardy, I felt that there was no need for me to keep this going on. This civil case is basically the same example of her trying to keep some type of relationship going here, Your Honor.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lisa Clemens says ex-boyfriend Ricardo Powell owes for the return of property and for an assault. Ricardo says Lisa is a violent woman.
Mrs. Clemens, in November, did you plead guilty to any of these charges, and were you given a year's probation?
I pled guilty to the violation of the protection order, and they dismissed the domestic violence.
The underlying.
The only reason I placed those phone calls to Mr. Powell in violation of the protection order was because I had no longer had any of my things. Mr. Powell denied a third party on two other occasions.
Wait just one second. I'm not there yet. I asked you if you pled guilty. The answer is yes. You had an attorney, is that right?
Yes, and I spent a night in jail.
Okay. Now, as part of the order, the judge told you that you could send a third party for your property.
Yes, but Mr. Powell...
Just a second. What was the name of the third party that you designated to get your property?
My Aunt Donna. Mr. Powell denied.
Just a second. What was wrong with these two people here to get your property?
My aunt was available with me in court, and therefore the people, when I left the courthouse that day, we designated her because the court officers were there.
Who designated her?
My lawyer and I, because she was there. She was available. She was in court.
Was that part of the order?
No, it's not. The person isn't designated on the court papers. I went back to court, Your Honor.
I'm not there yet, Ms. Clement. I'm trying to go in order. When, for the first time, were you contacted by Ms. to get her property?
There was never any contact business. There was only contact by Lisa a week after the trial.
Just a second.
Yes.
A week after
the trial.
The trial.
Correct.
Did you, Ms. Clements, go to the defendant's house?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Did your aunt go to the defendant's house?
No, she did not. I have a witness here today that he claims was with me. I have not even driven down the street.
Just a second. Is there any reason why you brought these two witnesses here today instead of your aunt?
Because my aunt is working and she could not get off of work.
Don't these people work?
Yes, but...
Listen to me, Ms. Clements. The defense that Mr. Powell has in this case is that you were instructed by the court to have a third party retrieve your property. His defense is you never had a third party contact him in order to get that property. You say that you did, and that third party was your aunt. So it would seem to me that that is a key witness. These people aren't key witnesses. This person was the person you designated. Why would you not bring a pivotal witness who you say can testify that you were trying to comply with the judge's order?
My aunt was not, to me, a pivotal key witness in this instance.
Well, to me, she is.
I understand that, Your Honor.
Now, I'd like to see a list of the property that you say you left behind at Mr. Powell's. Do you still have the bed with the mattress and box spring?
No.
Chest of drawers?
No.
Jewelry?
No.
What'd you do with it?
She had a couple bags of clothes, some books, and she does have one dresser. It's a desk. Right, that's it. Other than that, everything else is thrown out, which was shoes, it was toothbrushes, personal items, things of that nature. After she basically kept violating judge's orders and putting me and my son's life in jeopardy, I felt that there was no need for me to keep this going on. This civil case is basically the same example of her trying to keep some type of relationship going here, Your Honor.
Mr. Powell, I want you to tell me, sir, when she was arrested in October.
Correct.
Now, up until that time, the two of you had lived together for a couple of years. When you live together for a couple of years, you accumulate property. You have your clothes and things. Did there ever come a time when you gave certain of her property over to somebody so that she would have clothes and shoes?
As soon as she got out of jail, she was there within 2 hours with the police escort to get her things. They gave her things. They allowed her to take things out that day. So she took most of her things that first day.
Miss Clemens, on October the 4th, were you accompanied by a police officer, easy to verify, back to Mr. Powell's house to retrieve some of your property?
Yes, I was accompanied by the police officers.
And how long did you stay with the police officer, which is also easy to verify, in Mr. Powell's house?
Mr. Powell rushed us out after about 20 minutes. He told me to get what I could get and get out.
No, there was a police officer with you.
Yes, and
there was a police officer with you. I assume that if you were there with an officer, you wanted to get things that were most valuable to you. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Why didn't you take your jewelry?
Because the jewelry was what I consumed. What jewelry I had on was most important to me. The jewelry that was left in the house were things I did not wear every day. The clothing I obtained was stuff that I needed to get through the week. Mr. Powell stopped me from getting everything. I wish I could.
I'm not talking about everything. I'm asking you about a specific thing. I'm asking you about jewelry. To me, woman goes into a house, she grabs cash and jewelry first, and then you go to your pocketbook.
Your Honor,
What? Go ahead.
I have this whole situation with Lisa has been such a terrifying thing. As I said, I've even neglected to countersue her for the amount of rent left on our lease, as well as the damages to the house, which I have pictures of right here. Those damages would be in a total of somewhere between $800 and $900. The rent would be the total of like $1,400. I don't want nothing else to do with this whole situation whatsoever, so I've neglected to countersue.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
When did you go to get her things?
No, I never got a chance to because the officer called me back and said he changed his mind.
No, I don't believe. Let's not get involved with things that you really don't know anything about.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lisa Clemens says ex-boyfriend Ricardo Powell won't return her property. She also claims Ricardo assaulted her.
I would like to know, Mr. Powell, on what date you disposed of, according to you, these couple of bags of clothing and shoes.
November the 19th, the day that she came over a week after the trial in violation of the judge's order. There was no more purpose at that point. She was going to keep violating the protection order. She was going to keep violating the judge's order.
Now, she was found guilty on the violation.
She was found guilty on the domestic violence. She had it mixed up, Your Honor. That's the only thing I'm clarifying. She was found guilty of the domestic violence. I plea bargained her to dismiss the violation of the temporary protection order.
So she wouldn't go to jail?
Correct. That she would get this counseling.
Right. So she wouldn't go to jail because if you're found guilty on the violation, what?
Correct.
You want to say something?
Yes.
Well, step up for a second. Tell me what you want to say. Your last name is?
My last name is Twyman.
Go ahead.
I went with the police to their house to get her clothes and things.
Is that the day she was released?
This was the second time, I believe. And he would not let her get anything. And the police called both their lawyers. And I believe both lawyers agreed that she could get these things. And he told them at first she could come and get them. And then the police called me back.
Just a second. Who did he tell she could come and get?
He told the police.
How do you know that?
Because the officer called me at home, at my house, and told me that I could go and get the things without her.
You, not her.
Not her.
You.
Me. Right.
Fine. When did you go to get her things?
Now,
listen to me carefully. When did you go to get her things?
I never got a chance to because the officer called me back and said he changed his mind.
No. I don't believe.
Oh, well,
that I don't believe.
Yeah.
He said you could go.
Exactly.
Was she going with you?
No, she was not allowed to go.
Good.
She was there to...
Now let me hear your version of these events.
Okay, Your Honor. After the police, they said she has a reasonable expectation to come after the domestic violence case to come back and get some things out of her house. I gave them the run of the house to get what they have to do because I understood the police officers. After that, I was advised by the police officers as well as the prosecutor's office that anything else after this would have to be dealt with in court. They came over 3 extra more times after that in violation of what everybody is stating.
Who's they?
She came over more than once. He came over the second time after the police with her, too. She was there with him the second time.
Where was she?
They were in the truck in front of the house.
Did you ever go over to the house in the truck with her? Shh. The answer is either yes or no.
Yes.
Well, you can't do that, sir.
Okay, well, we met the police there at the house. And we were not in front of your house. We were 2 doors down, actually. We called the police before going to his house.
She can't go there, sir. Don't you understand that?
Exactly. I understand that. Okay, Jan, if you may, if she can't go there, why would he have her come there and pay the rent and then put her out?
Again,
after the whole situation.
Let's not get involved with things that you really don't know anything about.
I know about it.
Okay? Sit down.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
You have to put a period. You have to say this did not work out. The relationship is over. I'm not going to have anything to do with him. I lost some. He may have lost some. I lost more. That's the way it usually goes. It's over. Forget it. Go buy a new TV and a new hamper. Do you understand?
Yes,
It's finished. It's over. If you stop taking your medication because you don't feel as if you need it anymore,
I'm not with him anymore.
if you don't feel as if you need it anymore, That's a judgment that you're going to have to make. I'm not so sure, Ms. Clements, that that's the best idea. However, if you think that that's a good idea, fine. Cross him off and say it's over and let it go. That's all.
Is suing her ex-boyfriend, 24-year-old Ernie Murky, for the return of furniture.
All rise. Quiet in the courtroom. Hello. Yeah, this is case number 537 on the calendar in the matter of Stewart versus Murky. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You're welcome. Folks, have a seat, please.
Ms. Stewart, the defendant was your boyfriend. You have a child together.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Murky?
Yes, ma'am.
You have custody of your son, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
How old is your son?
2 years old.
How long have you had primary custody?
Since, I'd say, around last June.
June of '08.
Yeah.
What?
He does not have custody. He was granted interim custody when I was in the hospital in June.
Does the child live with him on a full-time basis?
No, we have shared parenting.
That has not been passed.
Just a second.
That has not been passed through court yet, ma'am. She actually has been doing better. We have agreed on a shared parenting because I'm not trying to keep my son from his mother. That was not my intentions at all. But we don't go back to court till April.
Is that correct?
Oh, we do go back to court in April, but...
Is it correct that until April he has primary custody of this boy?
He has interim custody, yes.
And prior to June of 2008, did the child live with you?
Yes.
So I assume something happened in June of 2008 which required his father to take custody of him.
Yes, I was hospitalized for a week.
I assume you were having troubles at that point. If you were hospitalized for a week, that means when you get out of the hospital, he comes back to live with you unless you were having some difficulty in your life.
Right, he filed for the interim custody while I was in the hospital.
Ms. Stewart, your case is about the following. You say that at some point you came back to live with him and you had furniture.
Yes, ma'am.
And the furniture was given to you by your father.
Mm-hmm.
And he threw you out because, according to Mr. Murky, he found that you had been sending money to an old boyfriend in prison. And you want your furniture back and your television. Mr. Murky says that the furniture was given to him by your father. It was used furniture, with the exception of the television, which was in fact yours. Now, if this is your father, I'm going to make the following statement. Are you your father?
Yes, ma'am.
Why don't you stand up? Is your last name Stewart?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Stewart, I want you to listen to me very carefully, sir, before you say anything. Are we understanding each other?
Yes.
I worked and developed my skills in family court over 25 years. There isn't a story I haven't heard in one form or another. Are we understanding each other?
I understand.
Now, I gather from reading these papers that at the time that your daughter was incapable of parenting her child, that Mr. Murky, who appears to be a rather responsible young man, took over that role. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes.
Now it appears to me as if your daughter is probably doing better. That a fair statement?
She's doing very well.
She's doing very well. That doesn't mean that she's the more responsible parent. Do you understand what I'm saying, Mr. Stewart?
I understand.
I want you to listen to me very carefully. Because she's doing better doesn't automatically mean that she should have custody of her child. Do you understand me?
Yes.
Were you a good father?
I tried to be.
Did you live with her mother?
Yes.
Was her mother a good mother?
Yes.
Did you feel as if her mother was a better parent than you were?
Probably she was.
He's a better parent than your daughter.
That's not true.
Yes, Mr. Stewart. Right now, in your grandson's short life, he has been the one who's been responsible for him when your daughter was incapable because of whatever messing up she was doing. She was messing up. So I want you to listen to me very carefully before I ask you these questions, Mr. Stewart. Before you alienate him, who very well may be the primary caretaker of your grandson for a long time, before you alienate him by telling something that's not true, I want you to think about it, and the best thing that you can do is just say, I have nothing to say. Because Mr. Murky said to me in his answer that you came to him at work and said, I've just bought some new furniture. And if you can find a way to get the furniture over to your house, you can have my old stuff.
That is not true.
And I don't believe you.
Why would I give him furniture and not my
why?
daughter?
Why would you give him furniture?
And not my daughter.
On what date did the furniture move into your house, sir? August, September, October. What date?
The middle of November. It was after my birthday. My dad gave it to me for my birthday.
Were you in rehab? Is that what? Let's understand what we're talking about.
No,
Were you in rehab in June?
I've never been in rehab.
What kind of hospital were you in June?
I was at University Hospital. I was having seizures where I was blacking out and I wasn't remembering chunks of time.
Had you been involved with drugs or alcohol prior to that time?
No, ma'am.
Go ahead.
She was having problems. She was doing some things. I'm not quite sure what she was doing. She was running amok. but she was hospitalized for those
That's
reasons.
a very nice thing for you to do. So the reason you would give him the furniture, your daughter was then living with him. He had been caring for your grandson alone since June.
That's not true.
What do you mean it's not true?
I helped with the grandson. Me and my wife helped, and my family helped. It just wasn't all on him.
As it should be. You're the just a second. You're the grandfather. So if you and your wife helped out, that's fine. That's what you should do.
Well, that's what we did.
That's what you should do.
Well,
he didn't say to you, listen, I'm just the father. I can't take care of a 2-year-old. He said, I'm coming in. I'm going to take over. She can't take care of the child now. And if you helped, that's what you're supposed to do. You're the grandfather. Sit down, Mr. Stewart. You're not being smart. You have her television set?
Yes, I do.
All right. She gets back her TV because you acknowledge that the TV is hers.
Yes, ma'am.
Was all the furniture that went to his house all used furniture that came from your father's house?
Yes, it was bought December 2006. I have the receipt here if you'd like to see
That's
that.
fine. It's staying in his house. Do we have to deal with anything else?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you have a nonsense counterclaim, Mr. Murky. Your nonsense counterclaim is for half your rent because when she moved in, she was unemployed, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So how was she supposed to pay you half the rent?
I understand.
You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
That's why I said it's a nonsense counterclaim.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Emily Stewart says the father of her child, Ernie Murky, owes for the return of furniture. Ernie is countersuing for unpaid rent and a cell phone bill.
Okay, so you were in the hospital in June. When you got out of the hospital, where did you go?
To my apartment.
To your apartment alone. You didn't go to your parents' house.
No, I had my boyfriend that lived with me.
Which is now in prison. Is the reason why.
Just a second.
Okay.
So you left the hospital and went to your apartment with a boyfriend who's now incarcerated. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, ma'am.
And you lived with this incarcerated boyfriend until when?
We moved out August 1st.
And where did you go?
From there, I went to go stay with a friend. My friend.
And where did he go?
I don't. That
To jail.
wasn't my problem. He did not go to jail. He went and lived with his parents.
When did he go to jail?
October, November, maybe November.
And what evidence did you find, Mr. Murky, that she sent money to him?
I found receipts showing plain as day that she was dropping the money off. Not sending it, she actually took it down there to him.
His mother paid me to take the money. It was her money. She paid me to drive it down there.
So at the time you were living with the father of your child, you were doing errands for your former boyfriend's mother by taking money to the jail for him.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand what I'm saying, Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
You get what I'm saying to you? Don't cut him off. Her judgment is south. Don't cut him off. You never can tell. Do you understand?
I understand.
That's why I didn't let you testify. You get back your television, period.
How about the...
I actually have another counterclaim. We have a cell phone bill that went into collections that's for $969.82. I have the last bill that was sent out and the collection letter showing that they're coming after me because I was the primary account holder.
When you gave her this cell phone, was she working? Is not an answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Where?
She was working for PNC at the time.
I worked at U.S. Bank, ma'am.
When?
Before we split up the first time. It was probably 2 summers ago.
Oh, forget it, Mr. Murky. Forget it. I don't go into ancient history, sir. You get back your television, period. That's it. Goodbye.
I have a whole laundry list.
Goodbye. I don't care about your laundry list. That's what you get back. You have very poor judgment.
How do I have poor judgment?
I can ask your father to tell you how you have poor judgment.
Because
if you're
I had
living,
a medical issue? I was not in rehab. I didn't have a problem with drugs or alcohol.
Listen to me very carefully, madam. This is your problem. First of all, you had poor judgment in hooking up with somebody that ended up in prison. You had poor judgment in while you were living